What's up, everybody? My name is Sid August, and this is my Soapbox, the place where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want, and today is a very special day. You are lucky enough to find yourself at the grand opening of the Sid August YouTube channel. Anyway, so I was scrolling through YouTube and I came across a little video with a very hot take in the title, and I personally love me a hot take. This is about an hour-long video talking about why The Boys is an awful show. And well, me personally, I love The Boys, but I also love a hot take. And if I can be convinced that, you know, I'm wrong on an opinion, I will take that. I'm glad to be wrong, you know what I'm saying? I'm glad to have my mind change. And so I was watching this video, and it was, how should I say, he gave me Chud vibes. And I'm watching, and I hear him say this little statement that got me stuck. And I had a hard time articulating it. So I thought I might boot up the old boob tube and stream my consciousness. Ooh. Anyway, this is a little magic trick. Watch this. Slow reveal. And today we have a video by a Sheev Talks, Mr. Palpatine himself, here to tell us why The Boys is an awful show. I will say I have attempted to do this YouTube thing for a while now. I want to do this, you know, but it's obviously harder than it looks. You know, I've written stuff, I've written video essays, I've sat down to film, and it just never comes out right. I have a feeling that today's stream, this little thing, is going to be pretty awful. Pretty rambly and not very watchable. But to me, this is just sinking or swimming. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta do this thing. I can't keep waiting. I can't keep putting it off. We're jumping in the deep end. We're just gonna react, see how this goes. Maybe I can edit this down into a little bit of a thing, you know what I'm saying? But I decided to do this live. Anyway, Lord Palpatine himself telling us about superheroes. I love me some superheroes, and I love me some boys. So, let's do this. Ooh, a disclaimer. We'll start from the beginning. Screw it. I was gonna move. I don't want to cut out any context, but I also just want to be sitting here doing nothing.
Fucking adorable.
And for a lot of people, that was part of the appeal. The show promised to take traditional tropes in superhero media and flip them on their heads by satirizing massive IPs like the MCU, daring to do a concept like evil Superman, which at the time was still somewhat fresh and new, and by actually showing the more violent consequences of hero work. The death of Hughie's girlfriend Robin is set right at the start of the show, and it immediately signifies exactly what I get. It's messy, bloody, and frankly horrific. This isn't like The Flash, where Barry saves the day and all his fight scenes are tame and generally not very brutal. When ATRAIN shows up, you know it's serious, because you've just seen how easily he can violently kill you before you even have a chance to blink. And he's of course a somewhat major antagonist in the first season, because he just killed the main character's girlfriend. This scene also works to further emphasize the trauma Hughie experienced when Robin died that'll ultimately lead to him making the choice to follow Butcher on his misguided path for revenge. What I'm getting at here is that in season 1, yeah, there was a lot of carnage, but there was always a point to it. It was there to further accentuate the current situation and to enhance plot points and themes. Hughie making the choice to kill Translucent firmly solidifies him as in the game now, and that's represented by all the blood splattered on his face and clothes. He's made the choice to not keep himself clean. But season 2 was the first one that really started pushing it, and by season 3, any notion of that aspect being secondary rather than the main point is just completely gone. Like, when I see Ant-Man shrink down and go into someone's dick hole, sneeze, and accidentally expand and kill him, I start to wonder what we're doing. What purpose did this serve that couldn't have been accomplished all the same without all the needless gratuity? And listen, I'm no pearl clutcher. I'm not even necessarily saying the show is bad for having mindless gore for the sake of it, but it's one of the many factors that turn me off of it. The show is bad because, well, there's a lot of writing issues as per usual. The plot is oftentimes lacking.
I don't like the idea of saving the violence for particular key moments like girlfriend dying and Translucent dying. I think the point of the first season is, yes, those were very poignant uses of violence, but now Hughie's in it. And now the violence is getting worse. Not just worse, more unnecessary. Not just more unnecessary, more gross. not just more gross, but like more absurd. You know, like it's a slippery slope. It's the end point of violence. Yes, there are poignant, violent beats that the first season hits, but there's also plenty of just random bullshit that's thrown in for shock value, just like the other seasons. It's lesser, but it's the first season. Like, of course they're going to amp it up, and, you know. Anyway, because I think this is just silly. The violence is the thing that gets you in. Ant-Man crawling into that guy's dick, that's the opening of that season because it's supposed to shock you. That season has other stuff in it that's pretty wild, but I would say that's like the most out there, and what that is, that draws you in, and then you stay for the character stuff, you know, the writing, which he says is apparently awful.
If not outright nonsensical. A lot of the characters either act really stupidly for no reason, or they're damaged in other ways, and the show seems to have lost sight of what it was originally about thematically in order to shove in more disgusting, gratuitous violence.
It hasn't lost sight thematically. The descent into madness, you know, Homelander getting more and more brutal, like the scene we're watching here with him just killing this differently abled hero, you know, Blind Spot. He doesn't have Stillwell anymore. Stillwell. He doesn't have Stillwell anymore. The fucking collar's off. George Giovanni.
Fighting!
Whatever his name is. Giancarlo. I'm probably gonna... Oh my god. The internet loves that guy. I can't remember his name. The internet's gonna be mad at me. He attempts to wrangle Homelander, but he eventually gets taken out in a different way. Less violent. Interesting. He doesn't get brutalized. So the show doesn't always resort to violence. Anyway, I just very strongly disagree. I think that this show is surprisingly thematically cohesive.
What did you say to me?
Teach him right from wrong, and he became obsessed with his own
Very
perception.
much
He has this deep-seated need to be loved, and it causes him to do increasingly awful things to earn the approval of others. But never in Season 1 would I have described Homelander as stupid. He's easy to manipulate at first, sure, but he's also pretty good at figuring out that he's being manipulated fairly quickly and dealing with the person in question. A big thing about Season 1 is that the main characters are operating with a sense of anonymity. None of them are known by the Seven, because even the ones who should be recognized by the people that directly wrong them get overlooked as just another fan anytime they interact with one of the Supes. Hughie bumps into ATRAIN outside of his girlfriend's apartment, and despite the guy having recently smashed through his girlfriend and having to look him directly in the eye to apologize, he still doesn't recognize him. The same is the case for Homelander the one time he sees Butcher before realizing who he is, and that's despite the fact that he's met this guy before and quite literally raped his wife. The Supes tend to overlook these guys in Season 1, and the boys use that to their advantage to operate in plain sight right under their noses. But that's no longer the case in Season.
I think this all just makes sense, because the point is, like, these superheroes, they brutalize so many people that they can't even remember who they're brutalizing. Oh yeah, I ran into your girlfriend. I run into a lot of people, kind of thing. Oh, I raped your wife. I rape a lot of people. So.
Homelander knows who all these guys are and can identify their faces, if not their names, because, again, he's a smart character who was able to figure out pretty quickly who killed Translucid and why. He figures out who Butcher is and why he wants to kill him without having to be told. And so when he confronts him at Stillwell's, he doesn't let him take the easy way out and blow himself up. He rescues him from the explosion and takes him to BECCA's, revealing that she's still alive and that now she has a son. The product of the worst thing to ever happen to these people, a daily reminder of how Homelander messed up all their lives, and Homelander made sure Butcher knew about that before letting him die. That was at the end of the first season, and starting off Season 2, you might be wondering why Butcher is still alive. At first I thought maybe Homelander would rather Butcher live with this knowledge and let it haunt him for the rest of his days, but even if that's the case, you'd think he would at least keep him locked up somewhere, or take some sort of measure to keep track of him. Butcher's just walking around a free man, and because of this, he's able to go back to the boys and continue making trouble for VAUGHT. And, well, the reason we're given by the show for why he decided to do this is because he apparently made a deal with BECCA.
BECCA, we got a deal. A deal that is alive and well and running around as free as a goddamn bird.
The details of which we later learn are that she said she would kill herself in front of Ryan if any harm should come to Butcher, and that she would tell him it was Homelander's fault.
I said if he hurt you, I would kill myself in front of Ryan. And my last words would be, your father did this to me.
It's a good thing you don't know your tales.
I wasn't bluffing.
She insists to Butcher that she wasn't bluffing about that, which I find strange. Doesn't really seem in character for her to traumatize her own son like that, even if it's to save the man she loves. But either way, that was their deal.
So he kind of moves on there, right? But, again, this is where I stopped. Because, for me, when I was watching this, that is 1000%, in my opinion. Like, I think that's within her character to do. You know, if we think about this, the only reason she abandoned Butcher is to protect him, you know, because he's just going to go on a warpath until he kills himself, which she was trying to protect him from. Obviously, that did not work. So she still loves him. The only reason she left him and went with VAUGHT was to keep Ryan away from Homelander. Yes, because she loves him, because it's her son, but also, I would say, more importantly, the show focuses more on the fact that she's trying to keep him away from Homelander. She's trying to keep Homelander and Ryan separated. She's trying to raise Ryan with a kind heart so that he doesn't grow up to be this monster that his dad is. And so, you know, being in her position, you feel safe. But now Homelander knows where you are, knows about the kid, cat's out of the fucking bag. You can't put it back in. So now she's in this constant state of stress, right? And so she's face to face with Butcher and this megalomaniacal, you know, maniac, the person she loves. If he brutally kills him and takes her son away from her, she's lost everything. So she has no power. She is a human. She has no laser vision or super strength. The only thing that is within her control is her life, her killing herself. And she could just kill herself, but that would leave Ryan in the hands of Homelander. So why not try to assure, one, it's her way out to just end the fucking suffering, because I'm sure she wants to end it. But then two, I mean, if she kills herself in front of Ryan, traumatizing him, obviously she doesn't want to traumatize him, but that would be a last-ditch effort at keeping Homelander and Ryan separated. It's a really messed up thing. It's a super hard decision. It's an impossible decision, but it's one that I believe BECCA came to because of just her circumstances. What else is she gonna do? What else can she do other than just watch Homelander, you know, do this? Do I think it would work, by the way? I don't think it would work. If she did kill herself in front of Ryan and blamed Homelander, I don't know. Like, obviously that's not how the show went. Later seasons we see that Ryan is a little bit too eager to buy Homelander's bullshit. He's obviously being lied to and brainwashed. This is just, to me, it tracks 100%. This is a desperate move by a desperate woman. Again, this is where I stopped. So this made me just go, what? Ah! And I had to pop on the camera. I'm willing to finish this. We're only 6 fucking minutes into this thing. We got about 50 minutes left. I'm down. I still want my mind to be changed. I feel this guy doesn't understand media. And also, I gotta say, really disappointed. Because I was expecting a Palpatine voice, you know. I was thinking it was going to be some AI thing. But you're not even going to do an impression. You're not even going to try. Sheev talks? Come on. You're full of Sheev. That's what you are. Yeah. Got him. Anyway, he moves on after this. So let's keep going.
The thing is, BECCA is completely powerless in the situation. She and Ryan live in this walled-off compound built by VAUGHT to simulate a normal suburban neighborhood for Ryan to grow up in, hoping to give him a nice, somewhat ordinary...
Oh god, is he going to just say everything I said? Oh god, did I just waste my time?
Bringing so that he won't turn out like Homelander, and neither of them are allowed to leave this place. So if Homelander took Butcher out of there, he could do whatever he wanted to him, and BECCA would have no way of ever ensuring he held up his end of the deal. Maybe she could if he held him prisoner and had him take pictures with the daily newspaper or something, but you can't really do that if you have no idea where he fucking is. Either way, Butcher's the only one with plot armor here, so any of the other characters are still fair game, and Homelander is more than happy to kill them. He even goads Starlight into killing Hughie, and this only doesn't happen because of this. He lets Starlight live after this point because she manages to convince him that she's not working with Hughie and she's still pissed off at him for lying to her, and Homelander never thinks to use the tracking chip that she still has in her neck to follow her and maybe find out if she is, in fact, still working with the boys. Spoiler alert, she is. Later on in the season, she gets captured by VAUGHT, and this is after she's removed...
For me, my suspension of disbelief never got broken because I just assumed, you know, the boys have underground networks. ATRAIN can comb a city. We see Homelander in Season 1 when he's looking for Translucent. He's combing the area, but then again, that got triangulated down and gave him a spot to focus on, you know. I suppose he could start with the whole country and then the whole world. My suspension of disbelief never really... Because he's got his own little machinations and his own plans, and he's doing his own thing, and a lot of it, I think, is the confines of VAUGHT. And he slowly takes it over. He slowly gets rid of everybody in his way. And first it's Stillwell, and then second season it's Giancarlo Esposito. I forget his actual name. Stan Edgar. Then it's Stillwell, then it's Stan Edgar. After Stan Edgar, there's so much red tape preventing him also from pursuing these people. I don't know. It feels justified. My suspension of disbelief never got broken. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I also don't believe Homelander is stupid. Why didn't he track her with the chip to see if she was still hanging out with him. Her and Hughie and all them, they leave state to go do, I think, talk to the chick who was the victim of Liberty back in the day. She talks about how she has to make an excuse. Oh, I have family down there, I'll just tell blah, 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 I have this excuse. If Homelander checks her chip, he's just gonna see that she's where she said she was. He could fly over there and check on her, but I mean, like, I feel like that's just, I don't know, it's a little bit absurd. And like this scene here, I think this was a beautifully done scene. This is using his superpowers to his weakness. His hearing, his senses can always tell when someone's lying to him. And Starlight is half lying. She's omitting stuff, but the things she's saying are true. And the fact that, you know, she's mad and upset, and she anyway, it all tracks in my head. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I know this is kind of rambly. I'll try to edit it, make it a little bit better. Maybe I can find my thoughts in the chaos, you know what I'm saying?
Him for lying to her, and Homelander never thinks to use the tracking chip that she still has in her neck to follow her and maybe find out if she is, in fact...
Okay, yeah, so this scene, Liberty killed this girl's older brother. They're going to visit her. She says, can I go to get out, you know, I need a break, I need to get out of here. They have clear excuses. She tells Vought, hey, I have family over here, I'm going to do some visiting as Annie, you know what I'm saying? So, even if he were to check his chip, all he would find is she's where she said she would be. I guess he could check news reports. He could do a lot of things that I just don't expect him to. I don't think he realistically would.
Starlight is a traitor, #1, and we've got a million tweets in support of Compound V. A common enemy rallies the base.
I don't know why you can't just kill her and still tout her as a public villain, but alright.
Well, first of all, he can't just kill her. Well, he could, but he would have to face, you know, Vought. She is being directly protected by Giancarlo Esposito, who, so in the comic books, Stillwell isn't a woman, he's a man, and he's more like Stan Edgar. Stan Edgar's character was what Stillwell was in the comic book. He was a strong man who wasn't afraid of Homelander. Homelander would try to intimidate him, and he would just stand there and be like, you don't scare me, you can kill me, fine, kill me. Be done with it. You know, if you watch the show, you would see that, you know, Homelander has not gotten control. He is not in control in this point. He is still leashed. He killed Stillwell, but he is still leashed to Vought. Season 2 is the story of him becoming free. Yeah, I don't get why you would even say that. Or is this the scene, are they...
But alright. Then in the finale...
No. See, he's jumping all over, right? What's up, dirtbags? So I'm editing this little piece together, and early on in the video, Sheev, in an effort to illustrate the point that Homelander is not very well written, rattles off 3 or 4 points within like 3 minutes. He just goes through them real fast, and then he moves on, and it kind of stun-locked me, because I was reacting to it for the first time, and so I wasn't able to formulate my opinions very fast, and while I'm editing this, it's very slow, but I slowly build up the argument. And so I just wanted to edit this together real quick as kind of like a thesis statement so that I could put all my thoughts up front, and then we'll get back to it. And the 3 points that he makes are why not kill Stormfront, right? 1, she's protected by Stan Edgar. If he kills her, he's going to have to deal with Stan Edgar. There's going to be consequences, you know? I think a problem that you have when watching the show is he's Superman, he's all-powerful, why doesn't he just kill everybody and take over? When that's what the show is. It's him slowly releasing the chains, and at first he has to deal with Vought. He's an all-powerful character who is boxed in by bureaucracy and politics, which is what's interesting. You're missing that point. And those same reasons are why he doesn't kill Maeve.
Don't die with them.
Let them go.
Maeve is protected by the same forces that protect Stormfront. Real quick, I just want to watch your reaction. So, here we go.
He's not willing to let that footage get out. I would ask why he doesn't
Stan
simply
Edgar get
kill all
arrested?
of them and destroy the phone, but I guess Homelander is assuming she'd be smart enough to have copies of that footage hidden elsewhere.
Right here, when Elena opens this drawer, picks up Maeve's phone, you see this thing that's connected right there? This is the GoPro camera, whatever it is that the poor soul who lost their lives happened to record their last moments on. I'm not the most technologically savvy guy out there, so tell me if I'm wrong, but this is the original. This is the answer to your question. This is the backup. If Homelander were to laser the phone out of Maeve's hand, this would be the backup. Now, I've never been blackmailed before. I don't know about you. Maybe you have. You may live a different life than I do. But if I were to be blackmailed, if someone were to flash me some shit I don't want out there, I'm going to assume that they've got backups. You know, that's kind of part of the whole deal with blackmail is you bring backups. You have contingencies. If they were to explain everything, if Maeve, when she whipped out the phone, said, and don't try to laser this out of my hand because I've got a hard drive, and don't try to kill me because Elena will, you know, make sure that this goes up if I don't blah blah blah. If they did that, I think that you would have then complained about them explaining too much. You know what I'm saying? I find a lot of people always teeter-totter between those two. It's either, oh, I'm not stupid, don't over-explain it, or I'm stupid and I couldn't connect these dots, why didn't you explain it better?
It's not a very good bit of blackmail anyway, since Homelander kinda has the ultimate trump card, which is, if you do anything to defame me, then I'll have nothing left to lose, and I will destroy everything on this planet. Which, it takes him like a year to realize, apparently. But once he does, you'd think he might, you know, actually kill the people who are actively undermining his efforts and looking for ways to kill him. Now, I've heard a few people say that...
So then he goes on, see how fast he talks about that point? He goes on to talk about like, the superheroes are overconfident. That's why they don't find the boys, which is a straw man. It's just a weak argument that he goes on to pummel in 2 seconds. It's not an interesting one. I don't agree with it. But if we watch the actual scene, watch this.
Here.
You're gonna let them go.
And if I don't?
Don't die with them.
Let them go. You're gonna stop hunting Starlight. You're gonna leave me and Elena alone.
It's Elena and I. Take note, Sheev, that's a real writing critique.
Or I release this.
If you do that, I'll destroy everything and everyone.
Great. As long as everyone sees what a fucking monster you are.
See, it doesn't take a year for him to figure it out. They lay that all out right here. You just aren't paying attention. That's how the blackmail works. You leave us alone, we don't take away your status. So later, when you show that little clip of Homelander confronting Starlight, he's just laying this scenario out again. He is not trumping the blackmail, he is just reinforcing the blackmail. You know what I'm saying? He says, if you put this out there, you ruin my life, I ruin your life. And your takeaway from that is, yeah, so then the blackmail doesn't work on him. Why doesn't he just ruin everybody's life? And then you say the show is badly written because he doesn't act on that. It's going right over your head when they're saying he's not acting on it because he doesn't want to lose that stuff. It doesn't take him a year. You're just editing things out of context, or you're not paying attention.
Though it's not clear if that actually is the case. It's not a very good bit of blackmail anyway, since Homelander kinda has the ultimate trump card, which is, if you do anything to defame me, then I'll have nothing left to lose, and I will destroy everything on this planet. Which, it takes him like a year to realize, apparently.
No, it's... So that's when he says, fuck it, do it, I don't care. This is mutually assured destruction. He is a nuke. And that video is a nuke on the other end. I wouldn't consider that a bluff. He's just laying it out. He's just laying out the facts that if you release this video, then I go crazy and it's the end of the world. Do you want to do that? You're jumping wildly between spots in an effort to critique the writing, but all you're doing is cutting out huge swaths of context.
There's this plot point in Season 2 where Black Noir randomly decides to start actually trying to find Butcher, and he does so pretty easily. Like, kinda stupidly easily. He basically just has one of the tech people search for him, and they find him on one of the cameras set up to detect if anyone's coming in and out of the compound BECCA's at.
So why doesn't Homelander find him? You know? You say, Black Noir finds him super easy, why doesn't Homelander? The reason that is because what you fail to realize is directly before these events, Starlight put out evidence that Compound V exists, and she basically spills the beans. these heroes who were being told that they were born with their powers, blessed by God, are having that ripped out from under them. Black Noir reacts to it very negatively. Stan Edgar sends Black Noir after Butcher and the boys because they're the obvious culprit. Starlight and Hughie did it, but obviously Stan Edgar's brain would go straight to Butcher and the boys, so he sends Black Noir out, and then Butcher, by the skin of his teeth, gets out of that situation by getting on the phone with Stan Edgar and making a deal, cutting a deal. So all of this is accounted for. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I can just, in one fell swoop, debunk all of these points, you know? These 3 points are dog shit. The precarious nature of this show is these characters are so powerful, but the bureaucracy prevents them from going all out, right? So the superheroes can do whatever they want as long as it's in service to VAUGHT. But as soon as, you know, Homelander starts making risky plays, both Stillwell and Stan Edgar always have to constantly kind of keep him boxed in. And Homelander's so busy battling that stuff. It's not that he doesn't have time to go after these guys. Butcher has Ryan. That's a big thing. Ryan is like Homelander's one goal. Is his son, is to have a family. Ryan chose to go with Butcher, right? Yeah, I think it's a mix of that. I think it's a mix of two. I think it's the Ryan and the video. Those two things together were what were able to keep my suspension of disbelief. You know, the boys have Ryan. The U.S. government has Ryan. The boys are backed by the U.S. government. That's another thing you're missing out on. You know, this is not just a group of ragtag douchebags running around with, you know, guns and blackmail. This is a government operation, and the government and VAUGHT are incredibly contentious. You know, all of season 1 and 2 were about that, right? Soups in the military, VAUGHT not wanting to step on toes in the government wanting to control VAUGHT wanting to not be controlled by the government. You know, all these come together, to me, to create a tapestry of reasons why the superheroes, or why the events go down the way they do. Yeah, I definitely think that this point is not a very good point. They've got the bureaucracy, they've got, you know, VAUGHT versus the U.S. government, they've got Ryan and the blackmail, there's just so many factors going on that, I don't know, maybe we're just not able to keep up.
Cars, no toll roads. He must have tracked me from BECCA's.
Apparently, it wasn't that hard to find Butcher, and when he does, he's pretty damn set on killing him, Hughie, and MM, so if Homelander wanted to, he could have easily done the same. By the time of season 4, I've kind of lost count of all the reasons Homelander can and can't kill these guys, honestly. He's no longer threatened by the plane footage because the heroes understand what'll happen if that ever gets out, and in fact, he literally threatens to brutally murder Hughie if Starlight doesn't stay in line, so he's clearly willing to do that.
Because if you step 1 inch out of line, I mean, if you so much as fucking blink the wrong way, then that will be Hughie.
I guess the only reason he's even bothering with this is because Starlight playing pretend as his girlfriend is good for his poll numbers, but the second she leaves the 7 and starts publicly speaking out against Homelander, you'd think that goes right out the window. And
she's then protected by the public, right? That's another thing. Oh my god, thank you, Sheev. Poll numbers. That's like his lifeblood. Being liked. That is at the core of him. Whenever he's having his little schizophrenic talking to himself episodes, that's like always what it comes down to. His dominant, angry voice is talking to his submissive little boy voice, telling him about how, oh, you want to be liked all the time. That's your biggest weakness. That's what's killing you. That's his kryptonite, his poll numbers, him wanting to be liked. There's a point where he's with Starlight on set of like a talk show. He knows this is fake. He knows Starlight does not like him. He knows all of this, but he has somehow duped himself into hoping that maybe she does. Maybe he's going to her out of desperation because he literally has no one else, and Starlight's pretending to be his girlfriend, so he's just, you know, he's a very, very delusional person. He is smart, but he's delusional. That's you know, he's not stupid. He's delusional. Yeah, after Starlight leaves, she's bulletproof, because if he comes after her, what is he going to do? Earlier when he talks about that nuke, that mutually assured destruction, you know, he doesn't want that. When he says, if you leak that, I'm just going to go batshit crazy. And your conclusion that you draw from that, Sheev, is, oh, well then why doesn't he do it? Because he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be in that position. He doesn't want to lose anything. You know, him simply saying, if you take away everything, if you take away the last thing I have nothing to lose. He is saying, don't take away the last thing I have. Therefore, that power dynamic is still in play. He has not escaped it. He is simply trying to get out on top. Does this make sense? I feel like I'm cooking. I feel like that really, oh my god, I feel like I really articulated that well. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I could be wrong.
In finale, he has literally all of them in his sights and could easily kill them, but he doesn't because I think that goes right out the window. And in the season finale, he has literally all of...
This is season 3 finale. They just fought fucking Soldier Boy, where Butcher has laser eyes, where Hughie can teleport, where Starlight and Kimiko are here. Is this the point where he just got his ass kicked? Or is this after the point when, you know, remember when him and Butcher shared that moment where they had that mutual protecting of Ryan, and they both, you know, the way I saw this was just kind of like, I'm giving up, I'm tired, I'm done, I'm just going. And he takes, and Ryan tells him, doesn't he? Wait.
All of them in his sights and could easily kill them, but he doesn't because...
Ryan! Cause Ryan, I'm pretty sure. Come on, Sheev. Do I need to go pull up HBO Max and fucking go all the way, do my due diligence? Or it's just Max, isn't it? Max. Gosh, Max. Your perfect plan. Oh, fuck you. I'm not signed in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Ryan. He goes, Dad, I want to go. It's Butcher, Soldier Boy, Hughie, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, Starlight, and Maeve. So you got 8 people. Out of the superpowered people, I don't believe Hughie has powers at that point. He might have, I don't think so, but you got Butcher with powers, Maeve with powers, Starlight with powers, Kimiko with powers, right? Maeve and Soldier Boy. Maeve and Soldier Boy are out the window, and then Ryan comes up, and he says, Dad, I want to leave, let's just stop this. And then you go on to dismiss that, and say, oh, why doesn't Homelander kill him? Just because he doesn't want to do this in front of Ryan? No, he doesn't do it because Ryan's the only thing he cares about, and he's playing on Homelander's emotions to save Butcher. Anyway, then you go on to critique Ryan. So...
I don't know, I guess he doesn't want to look mean and scary in front of Ryan. Actually, can we talk about Ryan? Because whether or not Homelander brutally murdering someone right in front of him would negatively affect him in any way is up for debate at this point. For the same episode, he watches as Homelander lasers a man to death in the middle of a crowd simply for throwing something at Ryan. And then...
Not simply throwing something at Ryan. First of all, he assaulted him. Second of all, it's supposed to be he killed somebody over something stupid. It was a little thing that happened to Ryan. I know, it was assault. It is assault. It's a can. It's not like someone went up and punched Ryan in the face, even if that would have worked. But, you know, the point is that someone came after his son, and he protected him. Protected him. It's a fucked up, wrong protection. From Ryan's perspective, he was just yelled at by Butcher, the one father figure he had, rebuked. He went to his biological dad, and now his biological dad is standing up for him. You know? Plus all the propaganda, plus the, you know, a big point in the show is, this is Homelander's son. And evil is within Ryan. I don't necessarily agree with that, you know. If your parents bad, I don't think you're necessarily bad. But you are genetically them. You have the capacity, just like your parents have the capacity, you know. Again, all this tracks. Nothing about this is awful. It's full of awe. I'm in awe at how they were able to craft such a masterpiece. But
and fucking smiles. I found this moment incredibly weird because up to this point, everything we'd seen about Ryan indicated that he was, you know, a good person. Like, sure, he had a
but what you just saw was he lost his mother in a brutal way, he killed his mother. And Butcher took him to, he's now living with Mallory. It's the same thing in a different location with a different person. His mom's gone. Butcher, his mom's husband, not his dad, stepdad at best, who he has an okay relationship. He starts to build this relationship with. It's a good thing that is being built post the death of his mom. And Butcher, in a selfish way, attempting to, you know, he thinks it's for the best, but it's just because he's self-destructive. He says all these horrible things to Ryan, putting him in a horrible mindset, making Ryan feel like he's a terrible person, like he's a bad guy. And then Homelander, his biological dad, the one who swoops in, saves the day. It all tracks to me. Like, the reason he's smiling is because also the power. An implicit theme in this show is nature versus nurture. Is Ryan going to be evil because of Homelander's genetics, or can we nurture him into being a good guy? And I think that's the goal of the show. I think at the end of the show, Ryan's going to become a true hero. I think that's the end game. I don't see them making Ryan a villain. They could. I don't want to be too positive. This all makes sense to me. I don't understand what your problem is. It's just a weird. It's just weird. It's like, did you watch the show? It's slow. You know? He doesn't go with Homelander because he wants to. He goes to Homelander because, again, Butcher pisses him off. Butcher cuts the ties. Butcher yells horrible things, blames him for killing BECCA, his own mother, you know? It's just...
Weird job. But I don't really hate anyone.
The first time Ryan ever does anything even remotely dark is when he kills Stormfront and subsequently BECCA by mistake. But even that was only in service to trying to protect his mom, and he immediately felt really bad about it afterward. Nothing about Ryan suggests...
Yeah, and then he went with Mallory, going through his feelings, depressive. He lost his mother by his own fucking eyes. He develops a relationship with Butcher. Butcher then, he verbally berates him, blaming him for what Ryan already would have blamed himself, right? Ryan is already blaming himself, and Butcher, who he just developed this relationship with, he then turns around and confirms in Ryan's mind. He just says the worst thing. You know, the one guy who's supposed to care for him, who already said he didn't blame him, is now saying that he blames him, which he doesn't. I mean, I don't think he does. I think he blames Homelander at the end of the day. I think his hatred for Homelander makes him see Homelander in the boy. You know what I'm saying? And it overshadows the BECCA within Ryan.
That there's any part of him who enjoys the suffering of others, but in the beginning of season 4, he seems to have bought into Homelander's whole humans are just toys for our amusement.
This is season 4. This is after an entire season of living with Homelander, of absorbing his lies. He's growing up. He's a growing boy. I don't know how old he is when we first meet him versus in season 4, but you know, yeah, he's being molded by. We're watching him be groomed. And in the beginning of season 4, we see that progress has been made. He is now further down that road. You're saying it's got bad writing, but you only think it has bad writing because you're not paying attention.
Philosophy, which is really weird. But then, the second Ryan accidentally kills someone he likes, it's back...
Because he's... You're describing a character torn. You're describing a character in the middle of a character arc, my man. BECCA's kid, still. BECCA's child is still within here. Right? Homelander is now taking care of him and attempting to mold him into him. He's a young, impressionable boy who is listening to his father, who is absorbing the things that his father says, who, you know, when he says humans are just toys for our amusement, he's not just saying that to convince Homelander. He's not just saying that because he believes it. He's not just saying that to convince Homelander that he believes it. He's saying that to convince himself that he believes it. But then this guy, again, when he kills that guy, when he throws that man against the wall and kills him and ends up in this scenario, this is the first time he has killed someone since he killed his mom. Right? Have you killed someone before? I haven't. I think that would be pretty freaking impactful. I think that, yes, he's trying to absorb this, but at the end of the day, he's still BECCA's kid. And this is the fight. This is the heart of the show. This is what's compelling about the show. You're upset because they don't hold your hand, and they don't just walk you through it. ABCs of fucking The Boys. They don't walk you through and spell everything out. You don't understand subtext or text. You don't even understand just what the text of the fucking show is.
to, oh my god, I can't believe I killed someone. I don't want to do this anymore, Dad. And I'm like, can we stop flip-flopping with this kid every 5 seconds? It always seemed like we were setting right.
Oh my god. It's not an inconsistency. You're attempting to find inconsistencies in order to feel better than the writers. That's what this is. When what the writers are showing, it's not back and forth. It's not scene to scene Ryan is changing personalities. It makes it seem like this when he's rapidly jumping from season 1 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 again. You know, it feels like he's flip-flopping, but he's not. Clearly, each season has a clear, you know, the first season he's not even in it. The second season is clearly Becca's little boy. The third season, the transition of him going from Butcher and Mallory and Becca into Homelander. And then season 3 and 4 are sort of him grappling with the new information he's coming into. His dad is attempting to mold him into something, and he's resisting. It's a very complicated, nuanced thing, and I don't understand how you're, like, so dense.
Ryan up as the one who will eventually kill Homelander, but at this point I have no idea what they're going to do with him, and I do not mean that in a good way.
I think they're going to seriously make him a hero. I think that he's going to, at the end of the day, he's going to be the one to take down Homelander. It's not going to be the Black Noir reveal like the comic book. They've said as much. He kills Mallory right here in this scene, right? Every time he kills somebody, it is because he's overstimulated or an accident, or both. So the first one is because he's overstimulated and it's an accident, and then he kills his mom. The second one, he's not overstimulated, but no, he is, yeah, because Homelander shows up and throws him off and kind of pisses him off. Kind of makes him go, oh my god, Dad, I don't need you here right now. This is my moment. And then he accidentally kills someone. And then here, he, realizes that he's being trapped. And in this scene in particular, this is something that's very important I don't think you're going to bring up. But there's a part where they're like, listen, Ryan, we're going to take you somewhere safe. We're going to take you to a black site, blah, 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 blah. And he sees that the walls of the facility are super fucking thick. And he sees that this isn't like a normal hospital. And he sees that he's being trapped. And from all the stories that his dad has told him about being experimented on, he says, you're going to do to me what you did to my dad. And then he kills Mallory and he runs away. Again, like, this is all a slow pushing towards Homelander. He starts with Becca, and then he starts over here with Becca, and then he slowly gets pushed over here with Homelander. But the whole entire course of the show, he's making progress. He's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I think when he gets there, they're going to have him realize that, listen, Homelander, the world's complicated, and Homelander is not the guy.
You're not that guy, pal, trust me.
Butcher might not be the guy, but Homelander is definitely not the guy.
You're not that guy.
Sometimes Ryan really cares about people and doesn't want anything to do with Homelander, and sometimes he doesn't really give a shit and actually...
No, not sometimes. You're literally skipping how many episodes sometimes are between this? How many episodes are between this? Is this before he goes with Homelander? Is this when he's talking with Kimiko and he's with Mallory? Do you not understand how TV shows work?
Doesn't want anything to do with Homelander, and
it's not sometimes, because when you phrase it like that, you're making it seem like it's every other episode, or even within an episode. It's not.
Now, remember what I told you.
Don't be a cunt.
It really makes it hard to figure out what they're going for with Butcher's characterization. Like, initially his whole thing was that he was on this self-destructive downward spiral where he wants to kill Homelander and get his revenge, and it doesn't really matter what happens to him. The only person he ever truly cared about is gone, and he's determined to spend the rest of his life chasing the guy who killed her. And then he finds out Becca's alive, but she doesn't want to leave with him because she knows he would never accept Ryan, and this makes him basically suicidal, because everything he's done for the better part of a decade has basically been for nothing now. He eventually finds a new purpose when Becca dies and makes him promise to look after Ryan and make sure he doesn't turn out like Homelander, and so the two bond in their mutual grief over Becca and form something of a father-son relationship. This all seems to be setting up that Butcher's ultimately going to have to make a choice between getting revenge against Homelander or saving Ryan, and probably dying in the process depending on how they want to go with this. But they have a falling out in season 3, and then Homelander finds him, so by the end of that season, he's back with Homelander.
Yeah. So, Butcher, his arc, and Ryan's arc are going at different levels, right? Butcher got over his stuff, well, I mean, he obviously didn't get over his stuff, but he came to the position here. Yeah, this kind of like they already did in Season 3, come to think of it. So, he puts his revenge aside to save Ryan at the end of Season 3. We want them, oh, well, now they're on the same page, and now Butcher can be a nice dad to Ryan. No. Butcher has to suffer the consequences of his actions. He doesn't get to just do this once and Ryan come running back, right? Ryan doesn't trust him anymore. You might say it's weird that he would trust Homelander over Butcher, but Homelander, you know, think about the things he's telling him. Homelander is a weirdo, genocidal maniac, a psychopath, but he's also love bombs Ryan. He all, you know, with the milkshakes and the blah blah blah. He doesn't treat Ryan like the other girls. So that's what abuse is. Anyway.
Probably dying in the process, depending on how they want to go with this. But they have a falling out in Season 3, and then Homelander finds him, so by the end of that season, he's back with Homelander, and as we just established, revels in watching a man die for being somewhat mean to him. And I don't know what...
Again, he didn't revel. I'll stop. You just keep saying the same thing. You just keep saying the same wrong thing.
I meant to make Ryan's character, so I have no idea how to interpret Butcher's perception of him. He wants to save Ryan from Homelander, and throughout Season 4, he debates with himself about whether or not it'd ultimately be better for the world at large if Ryan were to die right along.
You don't understand... Wait.
Established revels in watching a man die for being somewhat mean to him. And I don't know what I meant to make of Ryan's character, so I have no idea how to interpret Butcher's perception of him. He wants to save Ryan.
You don't know what to make of Ryan's character, so you don't understand Butcher's perception of him. Dog, it's really fucking easy. It's called that he's conflicted, you know? Butcher wants to protect him desperately out of his love for BECCA. But when he looks at him, all he sees is the man who raped and killed BECCA. Even if it was Ryan who lasered her, it was Homelander who inevitably killed her by putting her in a situation. It was Homelander who separated the two in his mind. Butcher is conflicted, just like Ryan is conflicted. And their conflicts are constantly pushing each other apart. Even though they both know that Butcher's the one that truly cares. Does that make sense? It's called conflict. It's called character. It's called writing, you know? And you said the writing in the show is awful, but you don't understand writing. You don't understand characters. I honestly think you don't understand people, because people are not movie characters. People are complex. These characters, these people in this show reflect real people. Complex. Real people don't have clean pathos that you can chart. You know what I'm saying? Character arcs are messy.
Ryan from Homelander, and throughout Season 4, he debates with himself about whether or not it'd ultimately be better for the world at large if Ryan were to die right along with his father. By the end, it seems like he's realized Ryan has to go, and this is treated like a bad thing, but considering this kid just killed the woman who looked after him for a whole...
Ryan has to do bad things to be redeemed. I would feel robbed if Ryan never dipped his toes in the evil sauce. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have felt robbed if the entire show Ryan was this sniveling little crybaby who, like, missed his mommy. I don't know. It's just interesting. What you're advocating for is a less good show. What you're advocating for is a boring show, a more black and white show, a show that is not as nuanced. And the point of this show is supposed to be that it's gray. You know what I'm saying? The good guys are bad guys, the bad guys are good guys. The boys would be supervillains in any other superhero media. Even if they have the same justified backstory in any other media, they would be the antagonists. And at the end of the day, they would be there to teach the heroes a lesson. But in this, it's reversed. And so, we don't have superheroes, we have anti-heroes, and we don't have supervillains, we have anti-villains. And the Ryan and Butcher dichotomy epitomizes that, you know? I truly feel like you're advocating for a more boring show. What you're describing to me is, I imagine that you're sitting and you're like, oh my god, every time like there's some sort of development. And for me, those are very tense moments whenever Ryan dips his toe into the evil sauce. I'm like, oh no, Ryan, come on, man, we were so close. And they keep missing each other, but that to me is thrilling. Butcher's arc keeps oscillating between his hatred for Homelander and his love for BECCA. And that manifests in Ryan. And Ryan's whole character arc is, will he believe his dad's lies, or will he turn against them? And what we're seeing is in each season going in the opposite direction. And the goal would be by the end of the show to hopefully line it up and have Ryan and Butcher align. I have a feeling Butcher's not going to survive that, and Ryan will, but, you know.
You might be saying the arc they're setting up for Season 5 will involve Ryan coming to his senses through Butcher appealing to his humanity and maybe sacrificing himself for something in the process. And you're probably right, but what I'm getting at is that I won't be able to buy that redemption, because we've been shown time and time again that Ryan will completely flip his morals at the slightest inconvenience. So the show ending with him being Homelander but good this time isn't going to land as well as I think the show wants it to.
Oh, homie, you see what's going on in here?
I can do whatever the fuck I want.
God damn.
There are other reasons I find Homelander frustrating, but the main one is that the show doesn't seem to know what to do with his character. Every season, it's the
Okay. That is wild.
exact same thing, and after the 4th or 5th scene of him talking to himself in a mirror or drinking breast milk, which has become a meme now more than an actual destructive trait that signifies his insanity, I just start to lose interest. Yes, Homelander is insecure and narcissistic and ultimately wants to be loved by the masses, but will settle for being feared if push comes to shove. I get it. Now can you please actually have him do something? Can we change the status quo even a little bit so that it's not just Homelander is being manipulated by some new supervillain character while securing more power over...
What do you want him to do? What do you want him to do? Do you want him to fly into the White House and laser the president's face off with an army of supervillains like they did in the actual comic book? What do you want him to do? This is thrilling. This is, like, intriguing. His battles with, you know, Stan Edgar and Stillwell and Ashley to an extent, even though he dominates Ashley. And once he takes over Vought, because that's not his whole character arc. He's taken over Vought by the end of Season 2 or the beginning of Season 3. I forget when Stan Edgar is arrested. I believe it's the end of Season 2, because that's when Victoria Newman turns on him. What I love about this show, right? It's doing the comic book, but it's doing the comic book for real. Homelander in the comic book does what I just said. He flies in, he lasers the president's face off, he sits in the White House spattered in blood, and he's got the president's skull in his head or whatever. And then Black Noir comes in, and it's just super violent. It's more about Butcher, you know, being a bad guy. He kills all the boys or something. I don't really remember. Over the course of specifically 3 and 4, which is when I started to see it, because at first I was like, okay, it's the characters, but they're doing their own thing, especially with the Ryan stuff. But with Season 3 and 4, it heavily shifted to he now has control of Vought. Homelander is Vought. And now, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? He's going to take over the country. How does he take over the country? He takes over the country through legal means, which I love. In the comic book, Victoria Newman is Victor Newman, who's Vic the Veep. He's kind of a dumbass. He is exactly what Victoria Newman is. He is there to be manipulated by the superheroes to get the presidency. But instead of making Victor this uninteresting character, this moron, they created Victoria Newman. They had her be friends with Hughie. They gave her a personality, and then they revealed that she was a soup with a pretty cool power. And Season 3 and 4 is Homelander doing what he did in the comic books, but what it would take in real life to actually overthrow the government. So in the spoilers for Season 4, you know, Sister Sage's plan, the plan is that Dakota Bob is going to run with Victoria Newman. They become president. Victoria Newman pops Dakota Bob's head, becomes president. When she becomes president, she becomes puppet for Homelander so that he can control the government from behind the scenes. But, you know, that's not how it happens in the show. What ends up happening is Dakota Bob gets arrested, Victoria is killed, and instead of Vic the Veep being Homelander's way in, they subvert our expectations and have it be the Speaker of the House, who's been in the show since Season 2, I believe. Maybe Season 1. Yeah, he was in Season 1. Yeah, because he had sex with Doppelganger. So I think it was just beautifully done, and when it happened, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my god, it is the comic, but thought through. Because again, the comic, he just comes in, lasers everybody's face off, coats the place in blood. And of course, that's exactly what you're advocating for. That's what you want this show to be, but that is boring. So Garth Ennis, I like him. these comic book guys from like the 90s and 2000s, they really fucking hate superheroes. They really do. And so the comic was pretty much just, let me create a bunch of pastiches, some parodies, and I don't know if I use that word right, pastiche, and let me brutalize them. Let me give a group of average Joes superpowers, and let me get my power fantasy off. And it's whatever. I don't find it very fascinating. I don't find it very interesting. But in this show, again, they do it. They're very faithful, but they adapt it. It's how, you know, superheroes in real life. I've always been of the opinion that if superheroes were in real life, they would definitely be this. They would be this. They would be narcissistic, self-indulgent. If you're born with superpowers, a lot of superheroes, especially in Marvel, gain their super abilities after puberty. Most people are adults when they get their powers, so they have been able to fully develop as normal humans before they become super. If you were born with your powers mutant style, yeah, 100% you'd be a lunatic, which is why I've never seen a superhero adaptation where the superheroes aren't born this way. Most of the time when I see superheroes critiqued like this, they are, other than Watchmen, because none of them have powers, they are crazy because they were born with powers. And anyway, I digress. My whole thing is what they did, like Homelander is so brilliant. Homelander is so much more than breast milk. Seriously. Homelander is such a fascinating character study. It's phenomenal what they've, I can't put into words how great the descent of Homelander is depicted, especially because in season 1, he's crazy. There's something off about him in season 1, but like he is way more put together. When this guy She was talking about how he's smarter in season 1, he is misunderstanding smartness for sanity. Like, I don't think he was sane, but I think he was properly leashed. And through the events of season 1 is when you start to see the true deterioration. And I think it was inevitable. I think he would have deteriorated. I think he's just an unstable person made by unstable ingredients in an unstable environment. He is going to explode. But the fact that you're saying this is bonkers, my guy.
Vaughght and the people who work there, and boy, you just know everyone else is sick of his shit, but not a single one of them is going to do anything about it because he's just so scary. By the way, something that's worth touching upon.
Yeah, yeah, because he's so fucking scary. Do you not think he's scary? Do you think you could take Homelander in a fucking fight? I don't think so.
How powerful is Homelander, exactly? Because you might hear evil version of Superman and assume their power levels are similar, if not exact. For all intents and purposes, he's this world stand-in for a Superman figure, and seems to have more or less the same power set. He can fly, shoot lasers out of his eyes, he has super strength, hearing, and smell, he can see through anything except zinc.
What can't I see through? Zinc, Homelander, correct.
While Superman can see through anything except lead. They're very similar, is my point. But Homelander's powers also seem to be toned down significantly in pretty much every way. I mean, the season 3 finale kind of proves this by having him engage in a 1v1 with Maeve, and it's actually close. Maeve is nothing to scoff at herself in terms of strength, durability.
Okay, do you think Superman could take Wonder Woman? I honestly can't even think of a time when Superman fought Wonder Woman, but in my head, I always liked the idea of them being equal. Maybe you don't, for other reasons. So
And overall
I like that he's toned down.
Power, but she shouldn't be able to stab someone as strong as Superman in the ear and actually cause him to bleed, let alone make him bleed just by punching him repeatedly. So that implies he's much weaker than Superman, even if still the most powerful supe in the boys' universe. And also,
well, and also Wonder Woman's magic, which Superman is not weak to magic. He's not weak to it, he's vulnerable to it. Meaning that, obviously Maeve isn't magic, but Wonder Woman, out of anybody on the Justice League, has a good, don't be shitting on Wonder Woman like this, man. Come on. Come on, man. Do you even like comic books?
It doesn't help that they don't always apply his abilities consistently. Sometimes his super hearing allows him to hear Mallory tapping on her phone screen from several feet away, or even an entire conversation taking place miles away from where he is.
Just keep him calm. Our best guess, you'll get bored and move on.
You were right. I'm not gonna get bored and move on.
And other times Hughie can be hiding right up.
I know exactly where this is going. Alright? Active listening when you're looking for something versus when you're not paying attention. That's the difference between these situations. He is rolling up on Mallory for his son. Of course he's going to hear her, whatever. He is rolling up on BECCA, looking for her through the house. He sees the camera. He's not across the world. He's on the same compound,
It also doesn't help that they don't always apply his abilities miles away from where he is.
Like miles away. I don't know how big this compound is, do you?
Mallory tapping on her phone screen from several feet away, or even an entire conversation taking place miles away from where...
Do you know if that's miles? There's a lot of road. We see her driving a lot. Do we know if it's miles?
There he is.
Or are you just pulling that out of your asshole?
Our best guess, you'll get bored and move on.
You were right. I'm not gonna get bored and move on.
And other times, Hughie can be hiding right above him in a vent without Homelander being able to hear his breathing. And actually, unless this vent is also coated in zinc, he should be able to see Hughie, so I don't know how the fuck he's getting away. Makes it hard to accurately...
He's not actively listening for Hughie, but he does hear him, and then he just starts randomly lasering up into the thing. Maybe it is... One second. Did I remind her that Homelander can't see... Oh, wow! Wait a second. Did I just... Oh my god, Season 4 spoiler. Since apparently everyone has an issue with the air duct in the ice skating scene, I feel like I'm going crazy because everyone is calling this a major plot hole when it's been established... Guess what? Granted, I did think that plot armor was a little thick, but not because of the... Yeah, it seems like... My bigger problem with that scene, to be honest, is why isn't he just flying up into the, like, why isn't he just ripping that air duct down? Why are you, like, using your eyes? Why are you standing there? You know, I can understand him being above him, chilling, and not, I can understand him not, like, paying attention. So I can understand Homelander just talking, blah, blah, maybe there's a lot of noises. It's like how Superman can hear the whole fucking planet, but then he can also narrow in on specific sounds and conversations in this alleyway, in this street, this city, in this country. And so, it's because he's not paying attention. But, he then finds out, and we see little Hughie, wee Hughie, scuttling across those fucking things. And to me, I'm like, yeah, he can't see through zinc.
Should be able to see Hughie, so I don't know how the fuck he's getting away. Makes it hard to accurately determine just how powerful he's supposed to be, but the ultimate point is, I don't really believe the notion that he could destroy the entire world if he decided to. Frankly, I think a couple of well-trained missiles from the US government would be enough to kill him, or...
Keep in mind that the show seems to be telling us one of Soldier Boy's explosions would be enough to kill Homelander, and this is the amount of damage those bring. No. You will notice that what they think will kill Homelander is the fact that the explosions take away powers. So Maeve ends up powerless at the end of Season 3. She's a normal human. It basically burned the V out of her veins, is I think what they said. So that's what they're banking on. This damage level is nothing to do with anything.
At least significantly cripple him a la Stormfront. And if he's not powerful enough to utterly decimate the planet if he becomes angry enough, then his threatening persona that so much of the show's stakes are built on kind of loses its effect. There's a point in Season 3 where Annie and Maeve are trying to get a few suits together to team up against him, and based on the way Maeve fought him in the finale, I'm pretty sure they would have won that contest easily. This is also why it's kind of hard to buy that he was able to stage a coup at the end of Season 4 and effectively make himself king of the world. I guess the military doesn't have anything to say about the active treason taking place by the Speaker of the House deputizing the suits and placing the nation under martial law.
Your stupidity knows absolutely no bounds. This is not the Speaker of the House declaring martial law. This is the president. What do you think the president does? The president is the commander-in-chief of what? The military. What you're asking here, the military doesn't have any problems, that's a question for next season, Season 5. What's happened is, president is arrested, vice president is dead, Speaker of the House is now in control, Speaker of the House is the president, which it's well within the president's job description to be able to do these things. We have to wait for next season for anybody to step up and challenge Homelander. You're really getting ahead of yourself here, bud. Okay, my guy. Okay, my guy. So, do you remember that scene, that episode in Tech Knight's house? Where they have all these people, you know, all these high-ranking people. I believe that was one of the questions they even asked Homelander, because Sage is shot in the face, shot in the brain, and so she's a little silly. And they are asking Homelander questions that she was supposed to be answering. And then that's one of the questions, and Victoria Newman, you know, she comes up and she makes that speech. And that's like the thing. That's the scene. That's it. That's what happened, dog. Maybe I can find that, I don't know, like, they explain it. Was so cringe. Awful writing. Why is she swearing so much? It's like they set up these billionaires need substantive material reasons to assist in a little crew. And what? Victoria gives a 14-year-old's version of an effective speech about what power is. It barely hit above Homelander's speech. The writers are really showing either their laziness or hitting the wall intellectually. It's like... Okay. What do you think a politician is? What do you think a politician is? A politician is someone who is, they're a salesman. They sell laws, they sell bills. They sell. That's what they do. And so, yeah, you know, maybe she didn't answer their questions, but the point is, you can do a lot. So, like, when you follow modern day politics, all the time you'll see people ask questions, which then the person responding to the question basically filibusters and sells you on feelings and hope or whatever. And I think that's what she did. I think, yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck it. I'm doing myself. Folks, thank you for coming. Sure you're wondering why we pulled you aside, so let's get right to it. I think we can all agree that Robert Singer is the greatest threat this nation has ever faced. He's going to destroy this whole country. You all met Ryan, my son? For his sake, I cannot and I will not let that stand. Does she agree? Of course. Especially her. She's not just eye candy. No. Victoria here, she's an integral part of the plan. She sees up close what a doddering slave to the woke mob Singer really is. How great the threat really is.
I think this is also something that people aren't, like, just Victoria's being involved in the plan is significant. Like, speech aside, she's, you know, his right-hand man. I would see that giving these guys confidence.
We need to invoke the 25th Amendment. You're talking about a coup? No, I'm not. I'm talking about saving this country before Singer replaces us with a bunch of transgender illegals that will do everything.
Save the boogeyman shit for the idiots watching BNN. How do you propose to handle the Justice Department?
They will all be our appointees, obviously.
And the military's reaction? Or OPEC? How are you going to guarantee our oil reserves?
Of course, there's going to be some birth pains.
Shock to the markets would be total. And what happens if civil servants resign en masse? With all due respect, sir, I think you got a little hitch in your giddy up. Who's handling all this?
Great question. This is great. Great questions, truly. And Sage, that's the details.
All right, so
Who's handling all this? Me. I fucking am.
see, so
Sure.
she did answer that question, Mr. Redditor. Mr. Redditor, she did answer his question. All these questions? I'm gonna do it.
You're all wondering why I'm here tonight
I
instead
know,
of
I'm being
renting out
dumb.
AOC while shouting defund the police upper asshole. But I'm here tonight to tell you the truth. Truth is, America's not a democracy. The word democracy makes people feel safe. But the founders never trusted
See,
the
I think
masses
what
because
this
the truth is the masses are fucking stupid.
I'll shut up.
Anyone who owns a live, laugh, love mug shouldn't have a say in how the country is run. People are a labor force that need a kind but firm hand. There are no nations. There's Apple, Exxon, and Berkshire Hathaway. Corporations are the real superpowers here. You should be able to operate without any regulation or restriction whatsoever. After all, you're billionaires. You are smart enough to know what's best. Bottom line, you support me, and that is what you'll fucking get.
Yeah, see, why does she swear so much? Did she swear? I didn't even notice the swear word until the last F word. What they were looking for is leadership, and they did not want to be led by Homelander. They wanted someone who they know was going to be competent in charge. They had all these questions, and she answered that by saying, I'm going to handle these things by politicking, by doing my job, by talking, by whining, dining, shaking hands, and kissing fucking babies. Not in that order. I get why they got on board, because Newman is showing them that Homelander is not the one in charge. But that's her job, right? Homelander wants to use her as a puppet, not just as a fall guy, but as a puppet to gain control over people he could not ordinarily gain control over, even with his power, even with his laser visions and his big muscly muscles. He can't. I think this works. I think this person's a dum-dum. Oh, Easter woman? Ugh, woman, am I right? Pfft, this shows the boys. Get out of here. Of course you don't understand it.
Sex is just a spectrum, right, bro?
Itadakimasu. It's bad. Let me tell you about the rest of the 7. Most of them aren't really given much to do, but they do make sure to devote plenty of time to the Deep for some reason. Like, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why this guy takes up so much screen time. He's not
Oh my god.
funny, and yet basically every scene of his is...
Okay, disregard this whole video. This guy's dog shit. He's not funny? Come on.
Just this overly drawn-out comedy scene where he does something silly like sing with his gills.
Everything I hope for.
Or fuck.
I think there are just moments that are absurd. Especially towards season 4. The Deep and ATRAIN are specifically important because they're foils to each other. You know, both end up not in good with the 7. Early on, both end up... Deep gets kicked out first, but then ATRAIN ends up not doing too hot. And then both characters experience the same desperation to get into the 7. But then both have different reactions. While the Deep deepens his terrible personality quirks, if you want to call him that, ATRAIN is going through a redemption thing, where I think at the end, you know, he might even stand up for some people who can't stand up, which, as I said that, I realized his brother's in a wheelchair. Pun not intended, but definitely welcome. Deep is super important. He's supposed to be this super dysfunctional. He is showing us the id. If it wasn't for him, then we wouldn't have any other real anchors to the bad superheroes, right? Maeve gets a redemption arc. ATRAIN gets a redemption arc. Black Noir doesn't talk, but then in the new season, Season 4, he does definitely take the evil side. You're just wrong. And he's hilarious, by the way. He's hilarious. The singing Gil sing, it was funny. When it happened, it was funny. It was absurd.
An octopus. It's weird because even when there is something meaningful to explore with him, they still turn him into a joke. Any moment of characterization is played for laughs and ultimately undercut, and he never grows from it.
I don't think playing for laughs undercuts it. I don't think it undercuts it at all. I like that dichotomy. I like when I watch things that are dark but silly, because one or the other gets old fast. And when you can balance both emotions, I stay invested longer. And I think that's what they've done. He never learns from it again because he's a foil to ATRAIN. He's not supposed to learn from these lessons. Not every character learns from the lessons that you write for them. That's not bad writing. That's actually kind of advanced writing, if you think about it, because everybody has their characters learn. But what about the characters who don't learn? People don't learn. People have to learn the same lesson over and over and over, and they never learn. They never take that lesson in. It's real life.
And it'd be one thing if these scenes were funny, but they never are.
They are
have
funny.
This plotline throughout season 2 where basically
you show the funny, you show this shit,
and he never grows from it. And it'd be one thing if these
this fucking meme. It's at the end of the day, it's taste, right? I think it's hilarious. If you don't think it's funny, you don't think it's funny. I'm not gonna argue with you, but it does baffle me. I'm gonna tell you, it baffles me that you don't think this is funny.
They have this plotline throughout season 2 where basically Deep is trying to redeem himself in the eyes of VAUGHT so he can get back into the 7. And in this time of great vulnerability, he's preyed upon by a powerful and influential cult. They set him up with a wife and have him go around recruiting other supes into this cult. And you think they might be setting up some really scary concept where these extremely powerful beings are beholden to the will of a prominent religious faction that seeks to dominate the culture. But Deep gets mad when they don't get him back into the 7, then he gets kicked out from the cult. And the only time we ever see anything to do with this plotline ever again is when Deep is going on this campaign about how toxic they are. And it's played for a fucking joke. Again, it's used for a shallow vanity campaign that doesn't explore his character or develop him in any way, nor does
I can definitely see how that would be an interesting story. I definitely see how someone can get attached to it. Me personally, this was a plotline I wasn't too into, but it would, like, again, the Fresca meme, it's funny. I thought it served well enough as a platform to get one of them back in the 7. And I did find that when Newman popped his head, it was in service of her character rather than the story altogether, right? And I feel like him being a character running around, he could have been something interesting. There's a character, Dr. Peculiar, he's like a Doctor Strange in the comic books. Yeah. This guy. And he basically, he's not a big character, but he's got like dirt on all the bad guys. On all the heroes. He's got dirt on everybody, and they go to him for that. So my point is that this could be. I'll definitely agree. What I said before, these two are foils, and what they're trying to do with these two is show both are desperately trying to get their status back. They were at the top and they lost it, and they're both clinging to it. But one becomes the worst version of themselves while the other is able to grow. Now the Deep doesn't really have any personal ties. He doesn't have a family we see him with. He's got parents obviously, but he doesn't interact with them. He's got the wife, he's just horny. But then ATRAIN has his family and his brother and something to ground him. So, funny, he runs. Pun not intended, but definitely accepted. You say they play it for a joke. It is in service of his character. It is in service of the plot. Missing the forest for the trees, I believe, is the saying. I don't know if that's applicable.
Does it touch upon the world-building potential of such a powerful organization? And if you think that's bad, wait until I tell you about the time he was sexually assaulted. In the first episode of the show, he whips down his pants in front of Starlight and tells her that if she doesn't give him a blowjob, he's gonna pull rank and make sure she gets kicked out of the 7. This is rightfully treated as a disgusting, horrifying thing that causes her to question every single belief she's upheld about what it means to be a superhero and a member of the most famous group of them. She ultimately sucks it up and does it, but eventually when she's had enough, she outs him for what he did, and the bad press causes VAUGHT to fire him from the 7 and banish him to Ohio, aka the 10th circle of Hades. This is the first time Deep's character is ever really explored in any capacity, and we find out that he has gills and is super insecure about them. One day he brings home a girl who asks to see the gills, and he's really not comfortable with it, but eventually takes off his shirt, and she starts aggressively fingering them while throwing him down on the couch. He tells her he wants her to stop, and she calls him a freak and continues. I don't really know how she managed to keep him pinned down, considering she's just a normal human and he has,
he could have thrown her off. Yes, he's physically stronger than her, but imagine if he did hurt her. What the fuck would that look like for him? You know, imagine he throws her off and she breaks something and she goes and talks, you know, it's just ridiculous.
Is how the rest of this is dealt with by the show. Like I kind of touched on in passing already, the insecurity he has for his guilds is eventually handled when the cult people get him high on shrooms and don't let him leave his room until he hashes things out with them. The guilds now being able to speak to him in the voice of Patton Oswalt thanks to the fact that, again, he's high as a kite. None of the scenes with them actually take the time to explore his inner psyche, nor do they even acknowledge the fact that this deformity of which he's so ashamed is the subject of a severely traumatic experience.
They definitely
Instead,
do.
they talk about finger-banging a kindergarten teacher behind the bleachers, and
that's talking about his inner psyche. No, don't just dilute that scene down to him talking about finger-banging a kindergarten. Think about the point, though, Patton Oswalt guilds are trying to fucking say. The point of that scene is that you rejected her before she could reject you. You finger-banged her, and you left her, and you humiliated her because you knew that if it progressed, she would humiliate you first, so you have to do it to her first. Don't do that. These are all in the same scene, so either you're stupid or you're lying.
And then they sing "You Are So Beautiful" until he comes to accept them as part of his body.
Everything I need.
There is one thing these scenes touch on in passing that might have actually been used to facilitate an arc for him going forward, which is that his insecurity about the guilds is what causes him to treat women the way that he does. He's afraid they'd laugh at him if they saw them, so he makes sure to humiliate.
See, what? Okay, so then what? You acknowledge this.
Of a severely traumatic experience.
They
were about finger-banging a kindergarten teacher behind the fact that this deformity of which he's so ashamed was recently the subject of a severely traumatic experience. Instead, they talk about finger-banging a kindergarten teacher behind the bleachers, and then they sing "You Are So Beautiful" until he comes to accept them as part of his body.
Everything I need.
There is one thing these scenes touch on in passing that might have actually been used to facilitate.
There's one thing. No, that's... Don't discount it. You're bringing it up. Don't minimize the impact of... You're amplifying the silly stuff and minimizing the serious stuff, and you're saying that the show does that, but it's not. It's just not. You're doing that.
Facilitate an arc for him going forward, which is that his insecurity about the guilds is what causes him to treat women the way that he does. He's afraid they'd laugh at him if they saw them, so he makes sure to humiliate them before they ever get the chance. You could have used this in the fact that he literally experienced the same thing he did to Starlight as a means of character growth, where he becomes a better person who genuinely seeks redemption and forgiveness from the people he's wronged. But the show just drops this. He goes back to the 7 and immediately becomes Homelander's yes man again. He's still a womanizing piece of shit, and he hasn't learned a damn thing. Deep has never been a good character, not even in season 1. And now we're 4 seasons in, and not a single thing has changed. I don't think it would be that big a deal if he was a minor character who showed up every once in a while, but he's one of the main villains on the show. And like I said,
he's a villain though. Why do you think you're supposed to like him? He's not a good character. You're right, but you're using that in the sense that he's not a good character. I disagree. He is a good character in the sense that he is human. People don't just learn lessons. It's not a movie. You watch too many movies. Life's not like that. There are some people I have known who have just had the same lesson slammed into their forehead over and over and over and over. And they still keep making the same mistakes because they're morons. And the Deep is a moron. He goes through a little bit of character growth. He feels bad, but then he gets back into the 7. And the reason he defaults back to his old ways is because he never actually felt bad. He felt bad that he got in trouble. He felt bad about his situation. He didn't feel bad about what got him into that situation. Again, like, he's a very good character. You're just dumb.
They devote a lot of screen time to him that just isn't justified. I will say ATRAIN gets it much better, because at least in seasons 2 and 3, he's not really badly written so much as they just don't seem to know what to do with his character. Because again,
no, they're doing everything that you want to be done with the Deep. ATRAIN is getting that. You're complaining about they don't give that to the Deep. You're just gonna say they don't know what they're doing with ATRAIN. Let me hear your thoughts.
He's the villain who killed Hughie's girlfriend, so there needs to be some sort of resolution to that rivalry. But they wanted to wait to do that for later on in the show, I guess. So for these 2 seasons, he's just kind of there. He's having heart problems. That's basically it. In season 3,
No. He is struggling with a lot more than just heart problems. He's struggling with a drug addiction. He's struggling with him murdering his girlfriend. He's struggling with his identity. Especially, let's see if we're going to get to that, because I think that's the next season.
Nate talks to him about how he could be doing more for the black community by speaking out against a racist suit named Blue Hawk, and when ATRAIN tries to do it the corporate way and not actually get his hands dirty, nothing gets accomplished, and Blue Hawk ends up crippling his brother for life. This causes ATRAIN to brutally murder him out of revenge, but obviously that isn't doing anything to address the core of the issue, so it doesn't make anything better, as Nate is quick to point out. This is something, I guess, but it really isn't much, and it kind of doesn't...
No, it's a lot. It's a fucking lot. You're stupid.
...go anywhere after this. To be fair, this...
No, it does go places after this. This is what causes him to become an informant for Mother's Milk, for the boys. All of this is the context that leads to that. All of that directly correlates. You're just, come on, connect the dots.
Who touch on his role as an African-American superhero, and what that means when VAUGHT only wants to use his race to pander to a demographic rather than actually bother to represent them genuinely. They have ATRAIN being forced to do this white...
So here's the thing. You complain about the Deep not changing once he gets back into the 7, right? They lose their status and they're desperate for it back. In this season, both of them have gained that status back. Both of them are back. Deep defaults back to his old ways. He doesn't learn his lessons, but A-Train does. A-Train's back, and he is seeing all the bullshit now, and he can't take it anymore.
Savior movie where Will Ferrell plays a coach who pulls him out of the ghetto and inspires him to become a hero. That and a multitude of other factors is what finally pushes A-Train into betraying Homelander and helping the boys take him down. Something that was pretty obviously always going to happen, but again, they wanted to wait a bit to keep that drama between him and Hughie going while he sat on the fence for way long.
No, dude. No. He's going through his own thing. You really are something. Do you watch movies through your screen of your phone? Do you turn on the TV and then you immediately pull up your phone and just start, scrolling? Silly.
Longer than he probably should have. I think when it became clear in season 3 that he was going to die inevitably once Homelander had had his fun with him, that should have been when he turned. And actually, I think it would have been way stronger as a character decision to do it when he was at his weakest and most vulnerable, rather than wait for season 4 when he had a brand new heart. But they didn't do that. Credit where it's due, though. The arc they send A-Train on in season 4 is pretty neat. There's this particularly nice scene where he has to rush MM to the hospital after he has a panic attack, and when he does, a kid sees him, smiles in awe, and he rushes off. It's the first time he's ever actually done something truly heroic without any other motivation than to help someone and without all the lights and cameras focused on him, and it makes him feel really good to have done the right thing and inspired that young boy. As for his relationship with Hughie, I also think that what they did here was very mature, and my only real complaint would be that they had these characters meander in limbo for 2 seasons before ultimately reaching this point. Enough time has passed.
Disagree with you on that.
Enough things have happened now that Hughie is finally at a place where he can forgive A-Train for Robin after seeing that he's turned over a new leaf and is really trying to help. Their dynamic perfectly mirrors that of Butcher and Homelander, who seem forever locked in this rivalry that can only end one way.
Well, what if we share a different destiny? Scorched Earth, shock and awe, blood and bone.
But where Butcher is ultimately going down a destructive path that'll get him killed and accomplish nothing, Hughie is able to finally let go of his demons and grow as a person. It's similar to the arc he went on in season 1, but I don't think he can ever truly let go unless he's forgiven A-Train, and now he has. Also, I say again, I don't know exactly what they plan to do with Butcher, so it might be Butcher also breaks free of the cycle like Hughie does.
Black Noir. We haven't properly met yet. I'm Starlight. I look forward to working with you.
What's up, everybody? It's the middle of the night and I look like shit. I was editing together the footage and it seems that I kind of sort of checked out. I must have ran out of gas at some point or something because I kind of stopped commenting and just listened, disagreed, and didn't elaborate on why I was disagreeing. It was very boring. So we're here. I wrote a few notes so that I can remind myself to mention things, and we're just gonna go right back at it. We're gonna try to go through this as fast as possible. This video is already an hour, and I am done. I am tired and bored. Did not expect to spend this much time on all this. It's really not worth the effort, but I appreciate you guys sticking it out because this guy really just, his brain is tied in knots. So we're gonna untangle that shit together. Here we go. We're gonna...
Black Noir was a big disappointment. I know in the comics they do some crazy storyline where it turns out Noir was actually a Homelander clone all along who was made as a contingency for if Homelander ever became too much to handle, and then he ended up actually being far more unhinged and was actually the one who raped BECCA, and I'm not suggesting they should have adapted that faithfully. That's fucking stupid and it would never have worked. But I do really dig the idea that of all the other superheroes in the show, Noir is the only one who can physically stand against Homelander. He's sort of shrouded in mystery for the first couple of seasons, which only adds to the intrigue, because you have no idea how powerful he is. For all we know, he's the only one strong enough to meaningfully hurt Homelander, and one of the only ones durable enough to take the brunt of his attacks without immediately dying. We don't know exactly how strong he is, but we know he took Kimiko down in like 5 seconds flat, and we know that other than Homelander and the other major players like Soldier Boy and Stormfront, Noir is the only suit that the boys absolutely do not want to fuck with. Translucent is attacking Hughie at work? No problem, I'll just hit the fucker with my car and 1v1 him with nothing but a crowbar. Black Noir is tracking me to my house and is waiting outside to kill us. Better call the fire department and falsely report a gas leak in the neighborhood just to buy ourselves a few hours to figure out what the fuck we're gonna do about it. There are also strong implications that at least some aspects of his comic book counterpart are true here too. It's hinted at and then directly confirmed by a spin-off show in an episode that is considered canon, that Noir's entire purpose is to closely monitor Homelander to make sure he doesn't step out of line.
If Mr. Edgar believes Black Noir can teach me...
Noir is not there to teach you. He is there to watch you. Make sure you...
So, real quick, I agree that Black Noir, his death, the use of him in season 3 was some of my favorite parts, but then at the end it was so disappointing. So a big problem so far is that I've just been agreeing, right? I really don't like what they did with Black Noir. The whole season was leading up between a confrontation between him and Soldier Boy, right? They had all this history. I thought a fight between the two was going to happen, and I was so excited. And when Homelander ends up, doing what he does, we'll get to that in a second, it really was a disappointment. I really am honest. But then things like this happen. I'm watching, and in the original reaction, I'm not really saying much, and then this happens, and I get stuck on this because, I have no idea why Stillwell, of all people, is telling him this. The show isn't very good either, to be fair. And what she's telling him is...
If Mr. Edgar believes Black Noir can teach me...
Noir is not there to teach you. He is there to watch you. Make sure you follow the script. Make sure you don't screw up and embarrass the company. And bring you in, if you do.
He's the only...
This video is full of these weird little rabbit hole side quests where I listen to it and I'm like, oh my god, how can you be so wrong? And then I sit there and I talk about it for 5 minutes and then I lose track of what the whole arc of his sentence was. But the reason why that is so stupid is because Stillwell is his handler. This is when he's new, fresh. It's like when he first debuts. He's young and he's stupid and naive. And Stillwell is there to keep him alive, first and foremost, but to handle him. Of course she's going to tell him to be careful about Black Noir. Black Noir is a possible threat to her client, you know? And again, none of this matters. This is besides the point, because we're talking about Black Noir, and he has to throw in these little things that make my mind race. So let's move on.
He's the only one of the Supes who answers directly to Edgar, to the point where he wears a body cam and Edgar watches him every time he goes out and does anything. So you'd think if any of the Supes on the show stands even a chance of beating Homelander, it'd be this guy, right? Nope. The thing I just mentioned about him being specifically loyal to Edgar makes it weird that he would just stand by while Homelander ousts Edgar as CEO of VAUGHT and gets him sent to prison. So already with just that move, anything I thought I understood about his character just...
Again, Stan Edgar, we see in the flashbacks, I'm not sure if they're brothers or if he just happens to be his handler, but they don't have like a really good relationship. They're not friendly. He's not Edgar's lapdog. He's eating those nuts in front of him and he's like, you know, I have a tree nut allergy. When they find out that Supes are not born with their powers, and that, what is it, Chemical V, what is it called? Oh, fake fan alert. When they discover that Compound V exists, he's caught crying and distraught. And so that was one of the first times that we saw that Black Noir wasn't as mysterious as maybe we thought he was. He's a little bit more human. And so when you say it doesn't make sense for him to stand by while Homelander takes over from Stan Edgar, yes it does. I hope that makes sense. Let me hear you say it again, just in case I'm missing the point.
To Edgar, to the point where he wears a body cam and Edgar watches him every time he goes out and does anything. So
you don't know if it's every time he goes out and does anything. You're just... we see it once and you're assuming it happens every time.
If any of the Supes on the show stands even a chance of beating Homelander, it'd be this guy, right? Nope. The thing I just mentioned about him being specifically loyal to Edgar makes it weird that he would just stand by while Homelander ousts Edgar as CEO.
Like, again, it's not that he's specifically loyal, it's just that Edgar's, you know... Again, you're reading too much into this. I'm just going to move on because I think I may be reading too much into this.
CEO of VAUGHT and gets him sent to prison. So already with just that move, anything I thought I understood about his character just went out the window. We find out he used to be part of Soldier Boy's team back in the 80s, and that Soldier Boy violently abused him at several points. So when he finds out Soldier Boy's alive and out to kill all of his old team for selling him out to the Russians, he freaks out and goes into hiding. Makes sense, he's having a natural response to his trauma by not wanting to face Soldier Boy. I hope they give that some kind of resolution. They do this thing where, in order to show us his inner thoughts, we see what he always sees, a bunch of talking cartoon animals egging him on to face up against Soldier Boy. And it's abundantly clear from the side of this just how damaged his psyche really is. I actually like this a lot. But then after they talk him into it, he goes back to the tower, and Homelander confronts him about the fact that Soldier Boy just revealed himself to be his father, making him no longer sure if he wants to kill him. He asks Noir if he knew, and apparently taking his silence as confirmation.
Did you know that I had a father out there?
Even though Noir is literally always quiet, he kills him.
So, again, little things that add up that I get caught on, but in this scene, you are skipping over, directly before this, Homelander talks about how everybody is afraid of Noir and how nobody can read Noir because of his mask, but he can see through anything, which means he can see through Black Noir's mask. He can see that Noir is covered in scars. He sees the way he smiles at, I forget what it is, I'll put the clip in.
It's funny, you know, everyone thinks of you as this unreadable sphinx. Mystery. Not me. I see through that mask. I mean, literally, I can see your face. Your battle scars, that crooked old smile of yours. I know when you're happy, sad, telling the truth, lying. Did you know that I had a father out there? Alive this whole time?
Do you see what I mean? It's so disingenuous the way he cut just that one scene alone. How he took and stripped all of the context from a really, like, beautifully written scene. Again, I don't like the outcome. I don't like what they did, but the writing's good. At least the dialogue in that scene was good. The writing might not have been good, but just how he totally misrepresents that scene should, in itself alone, discredit this entire video. It's just really sad. It's basically setting up that he can tell when Black Noir is lying. Then, directly afterward, he asks, "Did you know that Soldier Boy was my dad?" And Black Noir doesn't lie. He just reacts. You don't see it because he's wearing the mask, but Homelander can because he's got X-ray vision. Now that we're on the other side of this, please let go of my hand.
That's it. He never faces Soldier Boy. There's no resolution to his trauma or any kind of arc. He's just dead. And to add insult to injury, the cartoon animals show back up and say this.
Soon you'll be in the sweet embrace of Christ the Lord.
Like, I guess this is supposed to be funny, because if it's supposed to be sad like you naturally expect, then I don't know what to make of that line. It seemed intentionally written and delivered that way for the sake of comedy, but that completely undermines not only the impact of his death, but also the sadness of the fact that these cutesy little animals only exist because of how deeply alone and scared Noir must always feel. They're a testament to how mentally broken he is, and they show up in his final moments of life to make a funny joke for the audience. I don't understand the show's obsession with all these characters being nothing but jokes. Speaking of which, this is what they decide to do with him in season 4. Since his whole
So he's going to move on to Noir 2, which I will give my thoughts on. It's tough because I agree with all of that. I wanted that confrontation between him and Soldier Boy. Even if he were to die, I would be fine with him dying as long as his character had a full arc. This is the first time that I would agree with you. You know, this is a joke undercutting a character arc. The Deep does not get undercut by his jokes because he is supposed to be a bad example, while this character arc that they set up for Black Noir is directly chopped out at the knees. They don't let it play out to its fullest while they're letting the Deeps play out to its fullest, you know?
persona was just the mysterious silent ninja in the first 3 seasons. VAUGHT decides to just have an actor sit in on all the 7 meetings and just pretend to be him. For the first little bit, he just sits there silently like you'd expect, making it feel like nothing's really changed and that his presence is still felt. But then they decide to do the big reveal.
Yo, what the fuck? That was so fucked up, you guys.
The dead speak! His whole deal is that he's an actor trying to figure out the character, and all he does across the entire season is vent his frustration that Noir is so hard to act for because he was so enigmatic.
I'm on an island here. Okay, I have questions, but I'm not allowed to speak. I hate Saki. I'm not supposed to follow some stupid black ninja bullshit, which makes no goddamn sense, by the way. You ever meet a black ninja? Noir lives in a ninja dojo apartment. For best I can tell, he didn't know karate. I need some intentionality here. I'm just having trouble with Noir's motivation, you feel me? You didn't hire me to stand around like a fucking oak tree.
What do you need?
Some direction.
How we work in the guys today.
I just feel like I'm not getting clear direction for this role.
Shut the fuck up, Noir, and everyone take your seats.
And this is just, it's the only joke for the whole season. They also have this really weird thing where Deep tells him the reason Noir loved killing so much was because it made him horny. So if he wants to channel his energy, he needs to let himself get turned on anytime he commits murder. The resolution to this is he kills someone and he gets a boner. And he and Deep are like, bro, this is a real show that exists. By the way, is now...
So yeah, great freeze frame. That's when he moves on from Black Noir 2. First of all, he doesn't understand Black Noir 2's character. I agree that they shouldn't have killed Black Noir off, and I agree that I don't like Black Noir 2, but even in that disagreement, you dislike him for the wrong reasons, right? Or not the wrong reasons, but you just don't understand that even though he's a disappointment, they were still trying to do something. Yes, the main running joke is he's an actor making meta comedy about the idea of what it's like to be an actor embodying a character. It doesn't get old for me because Black Noir is not that big of a character. He's not taking up too much screen time, and they know when to move on. They don't linger on him. 2, the murder boner thing. It's silly, it's over the top, and it's gross, but it's doing exactly what I said before about the Deep. They are deepening the Deep's character through another character, Black Noir 2. You complained about him not growing as a character, but him as a foil, he's not supposed to grow as a character. And now that Black Noir 2 is here, the Deep's character arc is now corrupting Black Noir 2 and turning him into a worse version of himself. So Black Noir 2 is a tool for the Deep's character arc. That makes sense. So it's more than just murder boners, but of course that's all you pay attention to. Before we move on, the last thing I want to say, because he's going to move on to another part of the video, I want to discuss my opinions on killing characters. Because I believe that if you're writing something, you have to think about these things. So when you're killing a character, you're weighing 2 things, 2 options. What do I want more? A surprising, shocking, fleeting, impactful moment right now, that quickly we will move on from? Or are there more stories that I can tell with these characters? And for me, I believe that there was more stories, better stories to be told with Black Noir not dying. If he faced Soldier Boy, died in the battle, but, you know, got one over on Soldier Boy, I would have been totally happy. And then you could have introduced Black Noir 2 exactly how he is, and I wouldn't be complaining. But you didn't do that. You killed him, you undercut him. That's my thoughts. I think that's pretty clear and concise, and we'll move on. After the Black Noir segment, Sheev goes on to talk about the sexuality of the boys, and basically makes the same argument that he made in the very beginning with the violence. They lean too much on sexuality, they lean too much on violence. We'll get to that when we get to it, but he uses that to segue into commentary on Hughie, specifically the Tech Night episode and the Shifter episode. And then he starts to talk about Sister Sage, and then he shifts back to Hughie for the end of the video. And so what I thought would be more conducive to a better video would be if I move this up here. We're kind of skipping forward, but we're going to go back. Don't worry. Right now, he's going to be talking about Sister Sage.
Like, they introduced this new villain called Sister Sage, whose only superpower is that she's apparently the smartest person in the world, so Homelander wants her advice on how to basically take it over. And I know the show wants me to believe she's really smart, but I always say that a smart character can only be as clever as the one writing them, and I don't understand a single one of her plans, or why she's even doing this at all. She kind of has that...
That's because you're very stupid. I think we've figured that out over the course of this video.
That Thrawn from Ahsoka effect, where something will happen that you'd think she doesn't want, but then she just goes, oh, it's all part of my plan, don't worry about it. Only the difference is that her plans actually somehow work, and for the life of me, I can't figure out how. Like,
So, when he says this, what he's trying to do is make you think of, you know, we've all seen those movies where all these convoluted events happen. There's no way in hell anybody could have planned it. And then at the end of the movie or show, the villain goes, ha-ha, it was me all along. I planned it. I orchestrated everything, and I set everything up perfectly, and you came right into my trap. My opinion, my reaction initially was more that this was a case of contingencies on contingencies. Not all of the zigzags were carefully orchestrated by me, but more that they thought ahead and thought, if this happens, I should do this. If this happens, I should do that. You know, backup plans B through Z, right? That's how I interpreted it. But, of course, Sheev has to give the worst interpretation possible.
Throughout the whole season, Homelander wants to find out who the mole is, and she seems to figure out pretty quickly that it's ATRAIN. But for some reason, she doesn't go to Homelander with this information, and even throws a different guy under the bus. When it's eventually revealed to Homelander that it's ATRAIN, he accuses Sage of being stupid because she couldn't figure it out. But she said she did always know, and that she kept it a secret so that he would continue feeding the heroes bad information. Which is a really weird excuse, considering all the info ATRAIN gives the boys is true. He told them that Homelander was gathering all the soups at Tech Night so they could discuss plans for world domination, and the boys acted on that intel to listen in and gain valuable information. ATRAIN was the one who told them about the assassin that was hired to kill the president and where to find them, and that's how they found out said assassin was a shapeshifter. If they hadn't known that, then Hughie probably wouldn't have ever figured out that the person in the room with them and the president wasn't Annie, because the fact that they all knew that a shapeshifter was involved would have made it so that that information was on his mind, even if vaguely. I'm not sure what Sage and Homelander would have to gain by letting them know that, unless they wanted the assassination to fail, but frankly they're lucky it did, since the only reason the president survived was because Starlight happened to show up right at the last minute, and we already went over how that was extremely contrived.
He talks about that in the whole shifter part earlier. We're gonna go step by step through everything. I wrote down, I did a lot of work. I skimmed through season 4, just the Sage bits, and I wrote down everything. I wrote down her plan, and I wrote down the entire timeline of the leak, because, you know, we know the leak is ATRAIN. I'm just gonna let him make his whole argument. When this is over, we'll go through the document. It'll be cleaner that way.
Didn't tell Homelander who the mole was, but I guess it doesn't matter, because events she couldn't possibly have predicted or controlled caused Newman to be killed and President Singer to take the fall for it, making the Speaker of the House the next in line to be President pro tempore. I guess Sage somehow knew that his first act would be to deputize the Soups and put the country under martial law. It's all very nice and convenient when things just kind of happen like that.
I feel like I've recorded this so many times, and this guy just has just a beautiful talent at just how tight he can pack his bullshit. Because I can't believe I missed this. But he says it's convenient that the Speaker of the House just go along with the plan, but it's like, dude, my guy, he was at Tech Knight's meeting. He was part of the plan from the beginning, been a part of it. It's not convenient that he went along with it. He raised his glass and said, here, here. That's when he agreed to the plan. Moron.
And when Homelander finally asks her why she decided to help him establish a racist ethno-state of soups who would not be welcoming or kind to her, this is the only answer she gives.
Why would you do this?
To see if I could.
To give a little backstory, she explained in a previous episode that when she was a little girl, her grandmother died of leukemia. She had come up with a cure within like 3 days, but because she was a little black girl, all the doctors laughed her off and her grandma died. Because of this, she's decided that she doesn't care about anything or anyone, and that the world can burn for all she cares. She can come up with all sorts of things to fix the world's problems. She has the intellect for it, but she doesn't because of that one time when she was a kid and she couldn't save her grandma. The same grandma who, by the way, was a Black Panther. I'm sure she would love to see her granddaughter not using her intelligence for the good of mankind. Maybe that's something we could even explore. There's always next season. There's a lot more I could say about the show.
Oh, it's so frustrating. You listen to that story, and that's what you took away from it. Wow. No, I have to listen to that again, because, well, first of all, he said a lot, so let's go back.
Why she decided to help him establish a racist ethno-state of soups who would not be welcoming or kind to her, this is the only answer she gives.
Why would you do this?
To see if I could.
To give a little back...
Sister Sage is quite literally quoting Homelander back to himself.
I'd like you to join the 7.
No way.
Why not?
Because I'm not wearing some vaguely racist supersuit in front of a bunch of clapping seals. Plus, I'm a black woman who is 1,000 times smarter than you. Your ego can't handle it.
I'm pretty smart myself.
See what I mean?
Smart enough to listen. I mean, really listen to you. You can stay here, reeking of Taco Bell and loneliness. Or we can put some of your theories into practice on the global scale. It's the last time you got a chance like that.
Just like I promised. We had a deal.
Yeah, well, I broke the deal.
I didn't. I told you. You could trust me, boo. I got your back.
I threw you out like garbage. Why would you do this?
To see if I could. Thank you. This was so much fun.
Fuck humanity. She hates them all.
Maybe that's something we could even explore. There's always next season. There's a lot more I could say about the show that I'm just gonna let lie for the sake of this video not being any longer than it already is.
So that's the end of his Sister Sage stuff. Quickly, let's scoot on over to the document.
Tell me how you'd go about it. Hypothetically.
Rome, Greece, all democracies fail because people are fucking stupid. If you crush the masses, who builds your monuments? Who tongues your taint? No, the people will tear it apart themselves. Just gotta nudge them a little. Then you get to swoop in, be the one saving it.
Like Caesar.
Like Caesar. Statistically, it's inevitable.
So right here, we're just going to read through it together. Sage's plan. She wants to harness the hostility between the groups, the Starlighters, and the Home Teamers. I know, very stupid names. The first thing that Sage does is twofold. One, she tests the loyalty of the remaining 7, which is the Deep, ATRAIN, and Black Noir 2. They hand them baseball bats and tell them to kill Homelander's 3 biggest fans. And, well, the Deep and Black Noir 2 pass the test. Sage sees that ATRAIN is hesitating. And I think that goes on to help her figure out that he is the leak later on. She has ATRAIN dump the bodies off at a riot that she herself started, and they're used as martyrs for the Home Teamers. Sage then recruits a character called Firecracker, who has a personal history tied to Starlight. She knows a lot of secrets, and she has a personal vendetta. The perfect person to just tear down Starlight once and for all. So Sage proceeds to use Firecracker to tear down Starlight's public image. With Starlight taken care of, the next step of the plan is to recruit Tech Knight for his private prisons and just generally the wealthy elite of America, high-ranking corporate and government politicians. So they go to a party at Tech Knight's. One of the guests is the Speaker of the House, and another is the Vice President-elect even. So the plan is, they want Victoria to come out as a superhero, so she cannot pop Dakota Bob's head. So they have to find an assassin to kill him. Victoria's job is to assume the presidency, right? And with Victoria in office, VAUGHT will finally achieve what they've been trying to do since season 1. Get Supes in the damn military. With Supes in the military, Homer can then... Homelander, I'm calling him Homer from now on. So, with Supes in the military, Homer can then do a military coup. Take over the government from the inside. You kind of need the military for that. And then once they've taken over, they use said private prisons to throw away and forget about any dissidents who might speak up. So let's first go through the timeline in which ATRAIN was leaking information to the boys, what information he leaked, and try to think about why Sage would want him to leak that information. Before ATRAIN is officially an informant, he gives Hughie and Starlight footage clearing the Starlighters who were accused of murdering the home teamers at the riot. He does this because he views it as returning the favor for not messing with him in front of his nephews, because he saw them across the street and they didn't intervene. When the Seven discuss this event has happened, they look to the Deep. They're distracted by him because crime analytics is where the information came out of, and he's the one in charge. They go and talk to Anika, a character who was in the show previous seasons, and she tentatively sort of lets it out that she looked up something for Starlight. Homelander kills her, thinking he plugged the leak once and for all. This would also then provide Sage with the foresight to not inform him of who the leak is in the future, because he could just kill them right off the bat and waste an opportunity. Makes contact, and now ATRAIN is officially an informant for the boys. So the first piece of information that ATRAIN gives to is the fact that Homelander and Sage are meeting Victoria at an ice rink. Here is where they explain that Victoria can't be the one to pop Dakota Bob's head, because they need plausible deniability. Once she's in place, she's gonna get rid of all this stuff. I wrote it all down here. She's going to disband the Bureau of Superhuman Affairs, condemn the Defund the Supes movement, and remove all critical soup theory from every school. So, you know, really getting all those buzzwords in. And most importantly, they want a soup in every town, and for that soup to have legal authority over that town's police station. We're seeing where the, Gestapo are starting to come in. And then, of course, like I already said, they want Victoria to come out as a soup. So that'll be the first superhero president, basically. I don't need this anymore. Let's get that out of here. Why would Sage want the boys to know this? Sage mentions using him for misinformation, but since this is the first time that he's leaking information officially, I don't know if Sage actually knows yet. She might just have her suspicions peaked at this point, but this is the earliest point for her to know. In episode 4, Sage tells ATRAIN that the info couldn't have run out of here. So clearly, by this point, she has to know. So either it's before he leaked the information or after. I'm inclined to say that this is the point where she officially has made the connection. She still doesn't tell Homelander and gives up Cameron Coleman. It's hinted that Ashley was the one who gave the information, because ATRAIN goes to Ashley, Ashley's smiling as he gets beaten to death, he recently broke up with her. So I don't know if the implication is Ashley came to Sage, gave her the information, and Sage happened to know it was wrong information, or if that's just them trying to do a little bit of a red herring. So I'm just inclined to say that Sage knows at this point. The second piece of information that ATRAIN leaks is the death of Cameron Coleman in the previous episode and the meeting that they're having at Tech Knight's place this episode. The boys have two goals. They want to interrogate Tech Knight, and when they do that, they discover that Tech Knight is involved in the plan by providing the private prisons. And the second part of the plan is to bug the party to gain new insights. And what they gain here is how deep this all really goes and how serious Homelander and Victoria are. The one piece of information that the boys gain from both of these events are that Victoria is the linchpin to Homelander's plan. So if she was manipulating them all the way from the start, why would she want the boys to know that Vicky's so important? So here I wrote, what I think is that this might be an attempt for Sage to get the boys off of her back, right? The boys cornered her at that conspiracy con. She got out of it by tricking them, you know, using her brains. But I think the information that she wanted the boys to have was Vicky is the important part. And by keeping them focused on her, she's the real red herring. You know, Sage could operate in the background while they focus on Vicky. You know, it might have just been an attempt to give her some breathing room. At the end of the show, Victoria ends up dead, Dakota Bob ends up in prison, and the Speaker of the House ends up as president. This could have been a way for Sage to try to get Victoria killed so that she could put the Speaker of House in, but again, I think that this is a case of contingencies, not the case of she wanted the Speaker of the House to be the final plan. I think she was always planning on Victoria, and I think she was using Victoria as a red herring, but I think she didn't expect Victoria to die. You show Victoria's death there saying she could have never possibly known that this would happen, but then at the end of the show, they portray it as if she knew it would happen. No. You're completely wrong. Episode 7, Homelander and Firecracker turn on Sage. Homelander found the bug and pressed Sage about the leak. The first thing that Sage says is that the boys aren't going to leak anything because they're so focused on pursuing Victoria as discreetly as possible, which plays into and almost kind of confirms my theory about how she thought that Victoria was pretty much untouchable. She didn't think she could die, and she didn't think that the boys were going to leak the information, because if they leaked the information, then they wouldn't be able to get to her. But Sage still doesn't give up ATRAIN as the leak, even though Homelander has now pretty much kicked her out of the plan. The third piece of information, and I think the most important piece of information that ATRAIN leaks to the boys, is a photograph of the Shifter assassin. Why would Sage want the boys to know what the Shifter looks like? At this point, Sage definitely knows ATRAIN is the leak, but I also think that this is the first time that she actively manipulated him. I firmly believe that Victoria red herring theory, but this is the first time that we know that Sage is manipulating ATRAIN. What I think is so important about this, and what's so important about this information being leaked to the boys in particular, is that this directly leads to the boys coming in contact with the Shifter. The Shifter needs physical contact, and to kidnap one of them. I think that Sage knew that it was eventually going to go south, and that the U.S. government were going to whisk Dakota Bob away to some panic room, right? Some panic bomb shelter. And this event would allow the Shifter the best chances of sneaking in there, getting close, and doing his job. So either Sage doesn't tell Homelander ATRAIN is the leak so that she can use him to get the plan back on track, and the rest of it was all just a coincidence, or she's doing both, which I believe she's doing both.
Now. Fart.
Oh, that's okay. I don't really have to, dog.
Fart.
fucking hot.
What's up, everybody? Remember when I checked in on you last? I told you, hey, I know this has gone on for an hour. I'm bored. You're bored. Let's try to wrap this up as fast as possible. Yes, that was an hour ago. So I think it's time for a lightning round. So basically what happened was Sheev talks about the Deep, ATRAIN, and Black Noir. Then he uses Black Noir to segue into talking about just the boys' over-reliance on sexuality or sexual debauchery. And then he talks about 2 episodes in particular in Season 4, the episode with Tech Knight and Hughie, and the episode with Hughie and the Shifter. Then he goes on to talk about Sage. Then he goes back to talking about Hughie, specifically Hughie's arc in Season 3. What I thought I would do is just break this up real fast. I'm going to distill down his arguments to as baseline as possible so that I do not get distracted with all these side quests, because I feel like it might be just deliberate. Sheev has a way of meandering when he talks. He doesn't stay on topic. He'll talk about a thing and then he'll move over here and then he'll loop back, and he doesn't quite do a good job at tying the whole thing together. What this is a sneaky tactic that Sheev is pulling, where he's talking real fast, he's using a lot of words, and he's making it to where you can't keep up with him, and that casts the illusion that he's actually smart when he really isn't. So his main argument when it comes to Tech Knight and Hughie and the Shifter and Hughie really comes down to one thing, is that Hughie did not get a chance to reflect on what just happened to him. Now, I was racking my brain over when this show last used sexual assault as a plot point, and really it's only happened twice. The 2 examples you've shown, the one with Starlight in the Deep, and the one with the Deep and the woman, the mystery woman in Ohio. That being, both were very meticulous, both were very purposeful in their execution, and because of that, it made it feel like it fit. With the Hughie stuff, they treated it just like physical violence that they've been dealing with in every episode of every season. And I find that that's where they went wrong, in the sense that they are equating sexual violence and physical violence when they're not the same. Society takes the sexual shit more seriously, and like you said, the whole people downplay sexual assault on men, I do definitely think that that was involved in this whole situation. Hughie breaking down for that split second at the end of the episode does not count, mostly because he's breaking down over his father, which was actually really good written stuff. I really liked that episode. So out of an hour-long video, we made it this far, and Sheev has made an actually good point. So congratulations. We can end it there. No. Then there's the Shifter episode, where the Shifter becomes Starlight, kidnaps her, hides her away, takes over her body, her life, and has sex with Hughie quite a few times. And again, when Starlight shows up, it's just not a very good scene. If I were writing it, I would have written it as 2 people who love each other coming together. Oh my god, I can't believe that happened to you. Oh my god, I can't believe that happened to you. Let's be stronger together. And instead, she gives him shit and then tries to play it off as a joke. And again, it's been this long, an hour, and you finally made a good point. I don't think that you deserve any brownie points for that. I don't think you deserve any praise. I mean, Broken Clocks, you hit the number right on the head, right? I just find that these 2 episodes don't break down the whole show. Then you move on to Sister Sage. So, and throughout that whole thing, he has a bunch of like little criticisms that aren't really criticisms, little rabbit holes, little things that are just stupid that I've taken too much of my time. I just have to move on. So now we're going to talk about Hughie's arc in Season 3, and we are actually going to watch that. I'm not going to skip that, so let's go watch that now.
Got left out. And this is because the last person I want to talk about was, at one point, my favorite character on the show, and that is Hughie Campbell. I already went over pretty much everything to do with him in Season 4, the good and the monstrously bad, and I think my overall conclusion there is that he's actually handled fine there. Again, the stuff with ATRAIN is really good, and they also have a lot of great moments between him and his dad that I haven't really touched on yet. Season 4 handles Hughie pretty well, but it doesn't matter because
So with the stuff that I said before, his complaints in Season 4 were the same as mine. They did great with Hughie. just the lack of focusing on his trauma really left a bitter taste in my mouth, because this is the main character, and I want to see him cope. And what we saw was him crying for a little bit, and then really the next episode after Tech Night, he was fine. Like, during the episode with the shifter, he seemed fine. There was no moment. You had an entire episode, or 2 entire episodes, that you could have stopped. You could have taken a moment to have Hughie and Starlight talk, and you just didn't, and it really sucks. So, drop the ball. You dropped the ball, boys. So out of this whole thing, 53 minutes, 2 points. 1, Black Noir should not have died, or at least in the way he did, and 2, Hughie should have gotten a chance to have his trauma be taken seriously.
Season 3 already completely assassinated him. This is actually the reason I gave up on the show after the 3rd season. Because, again, I really liked Hughie, and seeing what he'd become filled me with so much rage. They took a character who was compassionate, caring, and understanding, and turned him into an insecure man-child who's mad his girlfriend is stronger than him. And that just doesn't sit right with me. Okay, so to add a bit of context, this is what Hughie does in Season 3. He starts off at pretty much the happiest point of his life. He has a really nice, well-paying job, working with someone he considers a really close friend to take down Soups and undermine VAUGHT in a much more above-board way than he's used to. He and Annie are really happy together, they share a nice apartment. Things are looking up for old Hughie. And then he finds out that Newman is not only a Soup, which she kept from him the entire year they were working together, but specifically the Soup who'd been behind the head explosions last season that significantly undermined the boys' efforts at multiple points, and could have easily killed Hughie at one point, which caused him extreme panic at the time. And he finds out about this in the worst possible way by following her into an alley and witnessing her brutally murder someone with her powers. This is the first domino that leads toward a downward spiral where Hughie feels powerless. Everything he thought he knew about Newman was a lie, all the work they'd been doing together was a lie, and was ultimately for nothing. And on top of all that, his girlfriend is constantly putting her own life in danger by continuing to work at VAUGHT, and there's not a single thing he can do to protect her if Homelander decides to go apeshit. All these things compound and make Hughie decide he needs to level the playing field. So when Butcher reveals that he's gotten a hold of multiple vials of temporary V, which can give the user superpowers for a short period of time, Hughie steals himself some and is given the power of teleportation, as well as enhanced strength, durability, and the power to heal his broken arm, which implies speed healing. Now, for some reason, when the other characters find out about this, they treat it as a bad thing, and I find that kind of weird. Because, yes, as we eventually find out toward the end of the season, Temp V is very bad for you. And if you take multiple doses like Butcher and Hughie are doing, it is absolutely guaranteed to kill you over time. Which is how Butcher ends up with a brain tumor by the end of the season, which manifests itself into its own shitty plotline in Season 4 that we're not even gonna get into. So yeah, Temp V is bad for you, but the characters don't know that at the time. MM is upset with Butcher about it because, as he puts it,
The whole point of what we do is that no one should have that kind of power. If you don't draw the line somewhere, how the hell are you gonna know where you stand?
which is actually an interesting topic that I wish the characters on the show would discuss more, because it brings to light how they might have come into the suit fighting business for completely different reasons that could conflict with each other. That might be MM's position, but I could just as easily see someone like Hughie or Annie arguing that it's not the power that makes them evil, it's the culture that created them. And in fact, the very existence of people like Annie or Kamiko are living proof that that kind of power in the right hands can be used for good, like, say, Hughie and Butcher using it to go up against Homelander. Keep that in mind, we're gonna circle back to it in a moment. The reason Annie is against it initially just seems to be that the drug was untested at the time Hughie first shot it up.
You shot up an untested drug from VAUGHT. You could have gotten yourself killed.
Which is a fair reason, but, you know, once Hughie used it and it worked and it didn't seem to have any negative side effects, I think he could easily argue that it was ultimately worth the risk. He saved MM's life because of his superpowers, and like we just went over, them continuing to use the Temp V could ultimately end up being for the greater good.
I mean, who do you guys want? Do you guys want gawky, weak, freaking the fuck out Hughie, or do you want strong, confident, handling your shit Hughie? With it, I can actually help. Is that I'm probably dead?
No, yeah, he's right. Not only can he use his powers to save others, but they really come in handy for protecting himself on field missions, which he's gonna be a part of either way. Much better to have super durability while getting shot at and the power to relocate quickly, I think. So I think Hughie and Butcher using the Temp V is fine, and I'm actually a bit put off by the show's insistence that it's not. What I take issue with is...
Okay, so I'm already... This is gonna be a very long one. When I heard this, I was baffled because no. no. So no, the Temp V is not good, alright? First of all, Butcher is reaping the consequences, right? So it's kind of crazy that you can say this while also having seen what Butcher has gone through in Season 4.
Which is how Butcher ends up with a brain tumor by the end of the season, which manifests itself into its own shitty plotline in Season 4 that we're not even gonna get into.
Yeah, because if it's untested, we don't know the side effects, right? Regular Compound V has a chance to kill people. That's what they say. It's not a perfect formula. So if the baseline stuff is kind of a scary thing to play with, of course she's going to be terrified that Hughie's playing with this. Part number 2. Hughie needs this because it will help him be a better field agent. Dude, the whole show, the whole arc of this series, Hughie's whole thing is he shouldn't be a field agent. In Season 1, Butcher uses him for information. He just needed someone to get into the tower to bug the room, and Hughie was perfect. Hughie, through his persistence, stuck it out and continued to be involved in this stuff. The next time that Hughie proves useful to the boys is when he takes over Pop Claw's cameras and he gets a visual in, and that helps them mine a lot of information, right? Well, those were both things done outside of the field. The thing that Hughie contributes to the team are his out-of-field skills, right? I'm not going to try to get ahead of myself, but in a second you're going to talk about how in the first season when he's dating Annie, specifically at the bowling alley, he talks about how she's holding back, and it's obvious she's holding back. She lets loose. She goes, man, I'm sorry, most guys don't like this. Most guys don't want a woman who is more powerful than him, and he says he doesn't care. And then you go on to say season 3 ruined his character because they turned him into a whiny man baby. But, again, context. You're ripping out all of the context, right? Between those 2 points, Hughie had an entire season arc, right? You talked about it, where he was working for an entire year with Newman in the Bureau of Superhuman Affairs, right? So you talked about how the violence should be used symbolically, right? Well, it was. He gets into the game through violent means. Butcher plays on his emotions, his anger, and then once he's in the shit, he realizes he doesn't want to be in the shit. Through Hughie's tenacity, he figured out a way to build something for himself. He figured out a way to contribute in his own way where he doesn't have to be in the field, right? He doesn't have to be in the missions. And then he has this cushy, comfortable life. He's got this superhero girlfriend. Everything is going good. He feels safe. And then all of that's ripped away with the whole Newman reveal. And suddenly, Hughie's mindset changes. That's when Hughie shifts from, well, shit, I tried to fight the power with a pen. I was told the pen was mightier than the sword. It's not, motherfucker. Now I'm gonna pick up a sword. And in season 3, the whole season, right? The season where he begins to struggle with Starlight being more powerful than him, that comes from the fact that before they had a solid relationship where she contributed things and he contributed things. Now suddenly he can't contribute to that. He can't keep her safe. He was keeping her safe through his government prestige, I guess you could say. That's taken away. So now he wants to physically protect her. That's what drives him to take the Temp V. She doesn't need physical protection. She doesn't want physical protection. The thing she wants from Hughie, the thing that she likes in Hughie, is that he's emotionally intelligent and that he's there for her. He provides more than physical protection, but he doesn't see that because all the things that he used to provide from her has been ripped out from him, right? So him turning to violence in season 3, him turning to temporary V in season 3 is a character regression, right? It is a test of his character. And the lesson that he learns at the end of season 3 is that he doesn't have to physically protect Starlight, that he can do other things to protect her. That was his whole arc. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Let's finish this. I don't know. I'm just trying to get through this as quick as possible.
Is what Hughie does next. So Butcher basically realizes Soldier Boy is the best possible chance they have of killing Homelander, since he's one of the strongest superheroes to ever live and has a handy-dandy new explosion power that can decimate city blocks. He knows MM would never go along with a team up with the guy who murdered his entire family, so he drugs him, and Hughie and Butcher leave with Soldier Boy. And I'm not necessarily against the plan on its face, because between him and Homelander, Soldier Boy is easily the lesser of two evils, and at least with him, they know he can be sedated and properly imprisoned since it's been done before. But where I draw the line is that Hughie would never agree to Soldier Boy's terms. In exchange for killing Homelander, he wants them to help him find his old teammates so he can murder them, and I can see Butcher absolutely being fine with this plan, but Hughie's not the kind of guy to just serve people up on a platter to be slaughtered. Especially Innocence, that Soldier Boy isn't even specifically targeting, but who will be caught up in the crossfire.
You can't buy that Hughie would go along with this. Do you not remember when they hunted Mindbender or Mindstorm or whatever the hell his name was? Hughie's whole arc that episode was trying to save Butcher and get Mindbender the fuck out of there, right? Like, that's where he has that epiphany that, hey, I'm doing the wrong thing. I shouldn't be doing this, you know? When you're talking about Season 1 using violence to illustrate points, when the girlfriend gets run over by ATRAIN, and when Translucent dies and coats Hughie in his blood, those were like symbolic, cinematic, I don't know, those were artful metaphors portrayed cinematically. Fuck, my brain is frying. When you say that, that is being done again here. Hughie assisting with Butcher killing Translucent is the same as Hughie here assisting Butcher and Soldier Boy in killing Soldier Boy's ex-team members. It rhymes, you know, is that what George Lucas says? It rhymes. It all makes sense if you really just pay attention. Pay attention.
I get that they're soups, and most of them are probably bad people, but all the same, Hughie only kills people when he absolutely has to. He's also one of the boys who was willing to humor the idea that soups can actually be good people, even when MM and especially Butcher were skeptical initially. And yes,
So earlier... Okay, thank you. So earlier you talked about how MM disagrees with Butcher and Hughie taking the temporary V, right? You say, oh my god, I wish they talked about this more and focused on this more, I would love to see, what, all these people who got into this for different reasons. And right now you're talking about how Hughie and Starlight are the only two, really, of the boys who are willing to see that not all soups are evil. And it's like, you're saying they're not doing this, but they are doing this. The problem is that they're not saying it out loud. They're not spelling it out for you. You say, let me go back. Where's it? Yeah.
But the characters don't know that at the time. MM is upset with Butcher about it because, as he puts it,
The whole point of what we do is that no one should have that kind of power. If you don't draw the line somewhere, how the hell are you gonna know where you stand?
which is actually an interesting topic that I wish the characters on the show would discuss more, because it brings to light how they might have come into this soup fighting business for completely different reasons that could conflict with each other. That might be MM's position, but I could just as easily see someone like Hughie or Annie arguing that it's not the power that makes them evil, it's the culture that created them. And
so, literally the show does this. The show literally does this. When you say that you wish that they would discuss it more, that is you saying that you wish that they would spell it out for you. You wish that they would speak it out loud, instead of watching the actions of the characters on screen. See, this is the thing. This is why I think that you're just like looking at your phone or something, not actually paying attention, because if you're looking at the screen and absorbing what you're watching, you would have answered every single question. Every single question that you had. Every single one. You would have understood more. But you don't. And so, I kind of skipped over most of his critiques of the Tech Knight and Shifter stuff just because, like I illustrated with the Black Noir stuff, even when you identify a real problem, you don't have the media literacy to accurately critique it. You just don't.
To humor the idea that soups can actually be good people, even when MM and especially Butcher were skeptical initially. And yes, I already highlighted that Hughie's at a desperate point of powerlessness, which is driving a lot of his decision-making, but I don't think that necessarily accounts for something this extreme. All of this finally comes to a head in the...
Okay, so Hughie's at a desperate powerlessness that you don't think would push him to this extreme. The arc of Hughie in the first season is him going from a normal, squishy guy to a superhero battling secret agent, right? It ends with him getting splattered in Translucent's blood and fully crossing that threshold into the world of the boys. Season 2 is a steady, fast escalation of the violence. Like I said at the very beginning, it gets worse and worse, more gross, more destructive. And the scene where the boys run the boat into the whale and Hughie resigned himself to the inside of that whale carcass to be just captured and killed by these superheroes, that is him realizing, wow, this shit is too much. Again, another point of extreme violence that is used for a poignant, metaphorical, artistic representation, whatever you want to call it. This is art, right? There's, nothing has changed between Season 1 and Season 2. Season 2 ends with him giving it up, going, fuck it, I don't need to be in this violent world. I'm going to solve it my way, the correct way, with policy. He's duped himself into thinking that he's solving the problem, when in actuality he's just become a part of the machine. And it really is helping someone who is exacerbating the problem. And once that's ripped away from him, Season 4 is just him doubling down, tripling down, saying, okay, Butcher was right the whole time. Hughie had been arguing with Butcher for 2 seasons, trying to bring Butcher over to his side. When he couldn't do that at the end of Season 2, he abandoned Butcher and tried to do it himself. Realized at the beginning of Season 3 that it wasn't going to work, and so over the course of Season 3, what we see is Hughie deferring to Butcher because Hughie just says, you know what, I don't know what's right. My opinions, my intuition, my gut led me astray, so I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to follow the leader. And that ends with him realizing, maybe I can land somewhere in the middle. And that's where we are here at Season 4, where Hughie didn't really get much to do. Pretty much the only thing he dealt with this season was his father. And that's sad. But, yeah. I'm just done. I'm done. I think I just cleared it up. We're gonna finish this video, but goddamn, I think I'm done.
The episode Herogasm, where Hughie and Annie get into a heated argument about all the decisions he's made recently. And This scene is where I lose all respect for this character. Now, like I hinted at a minute ago, part of what's made him feel so powerless as of late is the fact that Annie is in constant danger and he has no way of saving her. But this scene recontextualizes that concern in a way that's unbecoming, to say the least.
I saved you, Amy. Jesus Christ, all I want is to save you. God forbid I help you because I always have to be the weak one. You always have to be the strong one. You always have to be so much stronger than me.
This was set up in previous episodes, but that doesn't even begin to justify this bizarre character shift. There's a couple of great little moments in season 1 where Hughie and Annie are going on their first date, and Hughie realizes Annie is intentionally bowling really badly so as not to show him up and make him feel emasculated.
I think you're holding back for some weird, not gonna show me up on a first date reason. You want to quit stroking my ego and show me what you really got?
She talks about a boy she liked in high school who was being picked on, and so she stepped in and saved him, and he felt really humiliated, so he never spoke to her again. The lesson she learned from that was that she should never show her strengths to a boy she likes, but Hughie breaking down that barrier instantly makes her feel more comfortable with him.
Does it bother you that I could whip your ass in bowling? And in everything?
I really think it's awesome. I really do.
It makes her see him as different from a lot of other guys she's been with, and it's one of the reasons she continues going out with him. This scene in season 3 actually acknowledges these moments, and this is what it has to say about them.
On our first date, you said that it didn't bother you.
I know, but it does sometimes. A little.
Oh, you can fuck right off with that. This retcons
It doesn't retcon. What it is what I said, right? He felt that way at that point, and then life happened. She was stuck with Homelander in the 7. She was right next to him every day. She could have died at any moment. And how he protected her was with working with the U.S. government. Him working with the U.S. government created a aura of protection, and it was his way of protecting her. But then he was proven wrong. He was proven deadly wrong. And it went downhill from there. After that, he felt a very swift, sudden powerlessness. He went from the highest high to the lowest low. You know, I can see how... It's not a retcon. Retcons mean that they retroactively went back and changed something in the past. That Hughie was still that Hughie. He still didn't care at that time. But that Hughie is a different Hughie from this Hughie. Okay. Boom, bada, bing.
Those scenes to mean that their relationship is built on a pretty big lie. Well, I mean, it already was because of the whole, I'm secretly working with a group of terrorists out there.
Again, Sheev has proven he doesn't understand that characters should change. I find that a lot of people who think that they are movie people, who think that they're story people, when they think of character arcs, they think of a constant progression. They don't think about characters walking back, regressing. And to be honest, as a viewer, watching a character regress feels bad. You don't like it. Because usually when it happens, it's done so that the hero can learn the same lesson they already learned again. And here, I don't think Hughie did that. You know? I don't think he learned the same lesson again. It's a new lesson. You know? A new problem emerged from the new environment he's in. And now he's got this new problem. Yeah.
Destroy the company you work for, and I'm not telling you part. But this is different because that was meant to be a genuine moment that built up the love these two characters share with each other. The man that Annie knows Hughie to be, despite the lies he told her, is what makes her realize he's a good person, and it's why she gives him a second chance in the end. But apparently that was false too, and it's all in service to taking what could have been an actually compelling motive for Hughie and turning it into he feels insecure because a girl can beat him up. Are we in first grade? It just feels like they wanted to give Hughie an...
That is a first grader's interpretation of that. It has nothing to do with the fact that she can beat him up. It has everything to do with the fact that he cannot step between her and Homelander, and that's terrifying. Also, think about it in the context of Robin, right? Robin was someone he never had to think about protecting. It was just him and her. No threats. No possible Homelander coming out of the sky and tearing her to bits. And then he lost her. And now he's got Starlight, who can take care of herself, but she's with Homelander every day. It's just, it's easy to shit on something when you strip it of all context. The lesson that you should take from this, Sheev, is pay the fuck attention. Pay attention, man. You really gotta. Because this was the most dog shit video I have ever seen. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you've made it this long, thank you. Patreon.com/SidAugust. Buy me a microphone stand so I can stop making all that noise, because that was annoying throughout this whole thing. I can hear it in the edit. It's terrible. I know. I don't have an outro, so...
Fighting